National Assembly, Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula is in the chambers. He will be presiding over this afternoon sitting. Allow me to hand you over to this live broadcast brought to you by PBU in partnership with KBC. Good afternoon.
Waheshimiwa, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umetoa nyadhifa za viongozi na mabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu. Tukusihi tazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao wameridhika kutuita kutekeleza shughuli muhimu za jamhuri yetu. Tukuomba turemshie baraka zako sisi watumishi wako, sisi tuliokutanika hapa, na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikisha mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe na ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao msikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Congratulations, honorable members. We have started with a very handsome quorum. What is happening to your side, Mahmoud? Daud? Okay. We have quorum to transact business, honorable members. Clerk.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Order, Honorable Deputy Speaker and your team. Order. Take your seats. Honorable members, have a short communication on the withdrawal of the Land Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2023. Honorable members, as you are aware, the Land Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2023 was published by the Gazette Notice number 194 of 19th October 2023 to effect various amendments to laws relating to land. Specifically, the bill proposes to amend the Land Registration Act 2012, the National Land Commission Act 2012, and the Land Act 2012. And members, the bill, which is sponsored by the leader of the majority party, the Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, EGHMP, was read a first time on 14th November 2023 and committed to the Departmental Committee on Lands for consideration. However, I have since received correspondence from the leader of the majority party conveying his desire to withdraw the bill pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 140. For clarity, the Standing Order 140 on withdrawal of bills provide in part that either before the commencement of business or on the order of the day for any stage of the bill being read, the member in charge of the bill may, without notice, claim to withdraw a bill. Honorable members, in the letter dated 21st March 2024, the leader of the majority party states that following extensive consultations among stakeholders, he has since sponsored the publication of the Land Laws Amendment number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 76 of 2023 via the Kenya Gazette Notice Supplement number 237 of 6th December 2023. The bill contains more comprehensive amendments to the Land Registration Act 2012 and the Land Act 2012. Indeed, this bill was read a first time on 7th December 2023. Further, the Honorable Ichung'wah notes that the Deputy Leader of the Majority Party, the Honorable Owen Baya, CBS MP, has sponsored the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2023, which accommodates the amendments proposed to the National Land Commission Act 2012 as contained in the Land Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2023. Honourable members, having considered the request by the Leader of the Majority Party and noting the attendant provisions of the standing orders, I have acceded to the request and hereby direct that the Land Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 65 of 2023, stand withdrawn forthwith. The Departmental Committee on Lands should therefore cease any further consideration of the bill in light of this development. The House is accordingly guided. I thank you.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Majority Leader.
Thank you. Honourable Speaker, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. 1. Legal notice number 47 of 2024 relating to the National Building Code 2024 and the explanatory memorandum from the Ministry of Plans, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. 2. Gazette notice numbers 15492, 15493, 15494, 15495 and 15496 relating to the revised fees and charges for services provided by the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services. 3. Annual financial statements of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority for the year ended 30th June 2022. 4. Annual reports of National Police Service for 2023 from the Office of the Inspector General, National Police Service. 5. Report of the Auditor General on financial statements on Criminal Assets Recovery Fund, Asset Recovery Agents for the year ended 30th June 2022. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements for the year ended 30th June 2023 in respect of A. Kenya Investment Authority, B. Kenya Industrial Property Institute, C. National Council for Population and Development, D. Road Maintenance Levy Fund, Kenya Wildlife Service, E. Kenya Vision 2030 Delivery Secretariat, F. Tana and Athi Rivers Development Authority, TARDA, G. Agri and Cooperative Training and Consultancy Limited, H. Farmers and Poisons Board, I. Tana Athi Water Works Development Agency, J. Road Maintenance Levy Fund, Kenya National Highways Authority, K. Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, L. Kenya National Shipping Line Limited, M. Kenyatta National Hospital, N. Deposit Insurance Fund, Kenya Deposit Insurance Corporation, O. Alupe University, P. Sigalagala National Polytechnic, Q. Rural Electrification Scheme, R. Kerio Valley Development Authority, S. Lake Victoria North Water Works Development Agency, T. Criminal Assets Recovery Fund, and U. Lake Victoria Water and Sanitation Project Grant Number CKE 109302M, credit number CKE 109301L, and EIB number F1 number 2011-0619 Lake Victoria South Water Works Development Agency. I thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I beg to lay.
Thank you, Owen. Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Labour, Karemba.
Thank you. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 9th April 2024. Report of the Departmental Committee on Labour on its attendance to the Global Labour Market Conference in Riyadh, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, from the 10th to the 17th of December 2023. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
A Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Lands. Go ahead, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 9th April 2024. Reports of the Departmental Committee on Lands in its consideration of number 1, the National Land Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 43 of 2023, and number 2, the Land Laws Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 76 of 2023. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next, Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Health, Dr. Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 9th April 2024. Report of the Departmental Committee on Health on its consideration of the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 53 of 2022. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity, Yusuf.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 9th of April, 2024. Reports of the Select Committee on National Cohesion and Equal Opportunity on, number 1, benchmarking visit to South Africa from 26th March to 2nd April 2023. 2, a learning mission to Addis Ababa, Ethiopia from 17th to 23rd September 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements.
Chairperson, Public Petitions Committee on the status of petition number 6. Sit your name.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Have you taken over from, what's his name?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Statement on status of a petition.
You are the Vice Chair.
Yes,
Go
yes,
ahead,
Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Statement on status of a petition regarding delays in posting medical interns, absorption of universal health coverage, contract staff, conclusion of collective bargaining agreement, and recognition of agreement in the health sector in the country. Honorable Speaker, I rise pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2D and 208A to report to the House the status of public petition number 06 of 2024 regarding delays in posting medical interns, absorption of universal coverage, contract staff, conclusion of collective bargaining agreement, and recognition of agreement in the health sector in the country. Honorable Speaker, the House may recall that on Thursday, 7th March 2024, the member for Endebess constituency, the Honorable Dr. Robert Bukose, MP, presented the petition on behalf of representatives of the health sector unions, societies, and associations. Consequently, you referred the petition to the committee and directed that the committee provides a progress report on the petition today, Tuesday, 9th April 2024. Honorable Speaker, in line with your directive, Honorable Speaker, I wish to update the House on the progress the committee has made in considering the petition. In accordance to the standard operating procedures developed by the committee, it held its first meeting to receive briefing and analysis to unbundle the issues raised in the petition, and consequently, the committee identified the relevant stakeholders, the petitioner, the unions, the Cabinet Secretary, Health, Council of Governors, Cabinet Secretary of National Treasury and Economic Planning, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Public Works, Performance and Delivery Management, and Salaries and Remuneration Committee. Honorable Speaker, on Tuesday, 19th March 2024, the committee held a meeting with the petitioner, the Honorable Dr. Pukose, who made these submissions and shed more light on the petition. Additionally, Honorable Speaker, the committee met the various health sector union, societies and associations and deliberated on the petition and listened to the submissions. Honorable Speaker, on Wednesday, 20th March 2024, the committee met the Cabinet Secretary for Ministry of Labor and Social Protection. The Cabinet Secretary made submissions on the petition on various issues and raised in the petition touching on the mandate of the ministry. The issues included recognition of the registered healthcare workers, unions and associations, progress undertaken by the Conciliation Committee, and proposals on the long-term solutions to avert labor-related issues that occasions perennial strikes by healthcare workers. Honorable Speaker, the committee, by letter dated 13th March 2024, invited the Cabinet Secretary for the Ministry of Health to appear on 27th March 2024. However, the Cabinet Secretary, by letter dated 25th March 2024, requested for rescheduling of the meeting. Honorable Speaker, the committee has since invited the Cabinet Secretary to appear before it on Wednesday, the 17th April 2024. Honorable Speaker, in light of the foregoing, the committee is proceeding with the stakeholder engagement and has scheduled the pending stakeholders to appear before it in the week commencing Thursday, 8th April 2024 in order to conclude on the petition. In conclusion, my committee underscores the important role played by the health practitioners in the country. In this regard, the committee is committed to consider the petition with a view to finding a lasting solution to resolve the perennial and current issues in the health sector. I would like to request the indulgence of the House to accord the committee more time to consider the petition to its logical conclusion. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I hereby submit.
Dr. Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Janet and the Petitions Committee for having accorded me an opportunity together with the petitioners. Honorable Speaker, as you can listen to the cries in the gate, this is emanating basically from our medical doctors, interns, who are demonstrating in the street. And I want to bring to the attention of the members that already the Ministry of Health, I was there in the morning, and I was assured by the ministry that they already have letters for posting of intern doctors to the various hospitals, and they need to pick their letters. Their petition is already in the House and being prosecuted. The money for the registrars has already been sent to the various universities. Those are the two national issues that the ministry is supposed to deal with. The other issues that pertains to their CPS agreement and fulfillment are supposed to be dealt at the various counties. Honorable Speaker, my Committee of Health and the Senate Committee, we had scheduled a meeting for tomorrow. Unfortunately, tomorrow is a public holiday as gazetted for our brothers who are on fasting, Muslim brothers, and tomorrow they will be breaking their fast. So we have rescheduled the meeting to Tuesday next week so that we can get the briefings from both the Ministry of Health, the National Treasury, and also the SRC, and together with the Ministry of Education to confirm to us the progress that they have made in fulfillment of part of the petition. But we want to encourage the petitions committee to move forward and be able to come up with the various recommendations. Normally when people picketing come to the gate of Parliament, they want to hand off a petition. So currently there is no other, they've already given their petition to the petitions committee, which I prosecuted in this house. So there is now no petition which they have that they are handing over. All the petitions is being prosecuted by the Janet Sitienei-led committee, and we are happy with the progress. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I say thank you, and I want to urge our doctors to go to the Ministry of Health, collect their posting letters, and report to their various stations. They should. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Wandai. Are you on a point of order or you want to make? Use a microphone.
Honorable Speaker, I was just saying that I've just come in to Parliament and I've faced serious challenges and difficulties accessing Parliament just a few minutes ago.
Yes.
Because the whole of that gate facing County Hall is blockaded by multitudes of doctors clad in lab coats and other attire. Honorable Speaker, and I've listened to my friend, the chairman of the committee, my very good friend, Honorable Pukosi. We have a problem at hand. First and foremost, I think as Parliament we need to address that issue, that blockade, because it's likely to cause problems. But secondly, this issue of doctors, the manner we are treating it, it is likely not to go away. So I think this House, more than any other institution, has got a cardinal duty to rise to the occasion. Where everything else fails, this House must come in to address the issue head on, regardless of who is on the wrong and who is on the right. Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we are now almost in the 4th week, and there are no signs of this strike abating. There are no signs at all of this strike abating. So these statements we are receiving here are not adding to anything. So something needs to be done, and that's something I heard the President say, that the government is broke, is unable to pay, and therefore is unable to pay and therefore won't pay. Honorable Speaker, he also advised that Kenyans, including doctors, must now start to live within their means. Fair enough, Honorable Speaker. But even as we say so, what are you doing to ensure that these doctors leave the streets? They have now come to actually blockade Parliament. You don't know what else will happen next, Honorable Speaker. As we speak, I'm hearing that other Kenyans are planning to join them. Honorable Speaker, there's no idle threat. Other Kenyans are actually planning now to join the doctors on the streets. Unless something happens and we can persuade the doctors to leave the streets and go back to the hospitals, Honorable Speaker, these statements will just remain statements. Honorable Speaker, this issue, I was talking to my friend, Honorable Dr. Mikal, who is a veteran medical doctor. Honorable Speaker, I'm even surprised that those who are in charge of the health ministry are unable to differentiate between medical students and intern doctors. Honorable Speaker, I have been advised, I'm a layman when it comes to health issues. I have been advised, and I've got every reason to believe the advice have been given. Honorable Speaker, intern doctors are not just students. These are people who have done 6 years in university, have actually graduated. As you know, doctors don't just graduate with one degree. They graduate with a degree on medicine and also surgery. So it's a trained degree that they get after 6 hard years in campus. These are people who you cannot treat as any other ordinary interns we see in the job market here. So I suppose that unless something is done.
There's a point of order on I. Yes, Bukosa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when we talk about medical officer intern, it is true that you've been in the university for 6 years, but architects have also been in university for 5 years, 6 years, engineers 5 years, and all of them after graduation, all of them graduate, then they can become interns, even engineers. So is the doctors. They have graduated, even lawyers graduate and they become interns. So internship is part of the training. Yeah, it is part of the training. And when you graduate as a doctor now that you are going as an intern, you are under supervision by a senior doctor. After your 1 year of training under the doctor, if you don't qualify, because there is another qualification, I have to sign you that you are now fit to treat any other person. If I feel you are not fit to treat any other person, then I'll make you repeat again until I'm satisfied that you can treat somebody confidently and professionally without supervision. So this is part of the training. And I think we should not, and you see, we have those who are doing postgraduate, they are postgraduate students, also called registrars. So there is nothing, even when you are doing a PhD, you are a PhD student, there is nothing different from that. It's a training. What I also wanted to, Honorable, to correct the minority leader, is that Parliament prosecutes its activities through committees. We've already presented to the petitions committee, but we feel as health committee of the National Assembly, together with the health committee of the Senate, we can still prosecute some of the issues that might not have been addressed. And we had sought permission from the Speaker to sit tomorrow. But unfortunately, tomorrow is a public holiday. So we've already requested the Speaker that we sit on Tuesday next week, which has been, because where else can you be able to sit? Because once you reschedule the meeting, you have to inform those institutions. Ideally, it's supposed to take 7 days as per our standing orders, but we've requested for a special sitting to be done on Tuesday. And this has to be between the two houses, the National Assembly and the Senate.
And I wind up.
Okay, Honorable Speaker, I hear the Honorable Chairman of the committee, also an accomplished medical doctor. But all that Honorable Pukosa is saying, Honorable Speaker, with all due respect, is pure academics. It's academic because as we speak, we know for sure that even the 70,000 shillings you are offering the intern doctors is not in the collective bargaining agreement that was signed between the doctors and the government way back in 2017. That CPA has not been waived as we speak. So what is the government doing? Either to honor the CPA in letter and spirit, or review it with the concurrence of the doctors. That is how a lot of issues are addressed, Honorable Speaker, the world over. So what we are committed to here is mere academic. I don't think we shall go far if this spirit continues, this kind of thinking. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving the opportunity to mention something. And I want to agree, Honorable Speaker, with what all the contributors to that statement, Honorable Speaker, are saying, that indeed our doctors are valued, and we all value our doctors because many of us depend on them. But Honorable Speaker, it should not be lost to us that a decade ago, this country was only able to produce an average of 300 doctors from our two public universities that were churning out medical graduates. But today, courtesy of the huge investments that we have all made as a country in our education system, we are churning out an average of 1,500 intern doctors annually. What that means, Honorable Speaker, is that the interns would have been taken in 5 years are expected now to be taken in annually. And Honorable Speaker, I'm saying that just to draw the picture to Kenyans of the kind of resources that are required. And Honorable Speaker, also to put into perspective, the demands by our good doctors today are to be interned at an average of, I think, 206 or 207,000 shillings. Honorable Speaker, I have listened to this debate even in the public domain in the media. And what our doctors are being told, yes, it is possible to pay 206,000 shillings to intern doctors, but take up less interns than those who are graduating. Honorable Speaker, this year alone, a total of 1,210 doctors, intern doctors, are being enlisted at a cost of 2.4 billion shillings within the resource envelope already allocated by this House, Honorable Speaker. So it's foolhardy for us to speak to the gallery to excite doctors at the gates of Parliament. But it's another thing when we come to budgeting, to budget and make sure that you have adequate resources. But those resources do not come from the moon. They come from taxes raised from Kenyans, which, again, the same people who are pontificating about how well we should treat our doctors are the same people at the forefront of opposing the finance bill that was supposed to raise taxes to pay these doctors, Honorable Speaker. But, Honorable Speaker, the interns, Honorable Speaker, that are to be employed, yes, it is true, it may not be possible to pay 206,000 shillings. And I agree with the Honorable Chair Pukose that just like all other interns in other professions, those engineers who are supposed to work under engineers for 2 years, lawyers, like many of us, including the leader of minority, I don't know if he has finished his pupillage. When he's underprivileged, he earns a mere 25. I am told in some law firms, lawyers do not even earn anything. Those who are underprivileged,
There is no obligation to pay a privileged student in law.
I mean, Honorable Speaker, I will take your word as law because you have run a law firm and an accomplished law firm. Therefore, lawyers, there is actually no obligation, as Honorable Speaker, you say, to pay intern lawyers under privilege. So doctors, indeed, to earn what they are earning today, are indeed among the most privileged professionals in our country. Honorable Speaker, beyond their privilege, beyond their internship, Honorable Speaker, and this internship, Honorable Speaker, is mandatory.
Order, Majority Leader. Yes, Mwenje.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Standing order number 1. Is it in order, surely, for the leader of majority to compare a pupil who is not qualified to practice, who does not even appear in court, which is opposite to intern doctors who actually prescribe medicine? They actually treat people out there. So is it in order to compare those two professions? I'm a lawyer myself. I understand what I went through as a pupil. But that is very different from doctors, from intern doctors. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Mwenje, if you listen to Dr. Bukose's very clear explanation, there is no difference. There is no difference. When I was a master to the Honorable Soipan, the Honorable Kindiki, and many others, they actually were obligated to show gratitude, and that is all. But I'm not saying it's applicable to doctors, because I don't want to wade into that. Majority Leader is on the floor. I'll give you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me not respond because you have responded to Honorable Mwenje, who claims to be a lawyer. The lawyer I know behind me, Honorable Speaker, is Honorable Njeri, who tells me that she would earn 12,000 shillings as a pupillage lawyer. Honorable Speaker, that's why I say this internship program can be likened to that pupillage, 2 years pupillage for lawyers, and also the 2 years postgraduate training practice for architects and engineers. And all these professions, Honorable Speaker, do not earn the quantum that our doctors are speaking. Honorable Speaker, when these doctors qualify after working under the supervision of qualified consultants and doctors, they join this public service at a grade higher than all other professionals. And those are facts, Honorable Speaker. And that means they earn more. But Honorable Speaker, it must also not be lost to the country that our intern doctors are making a very critical point and speaking to the architecture of our constitution. Our doctors for long have demanded the establishment of a Health Services Commission, Honorable Speaker. Today, while the intern doctors feel mistreated, is because they are being overworked in our county government establishments. And the day we opted in 2010 to fully devolve our health services, Honorable Speaker, we did a great injustice, not just to medical professionals, but to the people of Kenya. Today, Honorable Speaker, whether you are in a level 3 hospital, a level 4 hospital, or a level 1, or a health center, or a dispensary in your village, the person you will walk to treat you at your local dispensary is either a clinical officer. At your level 3 and level 4 hospitals are these intern doctors, Honorable Speaker. And they are being overworked by our governors and our county governments. That is a fact that we must state, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, the Council of Governors, Honorable Speaker, must come out and take their position, their rightful position in ensuring that hospitals within our country and within their respective counties, first, they have qualified doctors, and two, that the intern doctors who work in those hospitals are not overworked. They are working under the supervision of other qualified personnel, Honorable Speaker. Because, Honorable Speaker, today, facts are different. That intern doctors are actually the ones running our county hospitals across the country without exception. Yes. And those are facts, Honorable Speaker. They are carrying out surgeries, Honorable Speaker, without the supervision of qualified personnel. And therefore, these are issues, Honorable Speaker, that must not be left at the altar of the national government, but our Council of Governors and county governments must also take their rightful position, Honorable Speaker, because now this thing has been made to look like it is a question of the national government to deal with alone. Why it has become such a problem is because our healthcare is decaying and rotting under the hands of our county governments. Yes. If you read all our audit reports, all the Auditor General's reports, Honorable Speaker, including those from my own county in Kiambu, billions of shillings are being lost and pilfered by governors who have no regard to either the medical professionals or indeed any other professionals working in our county governments. But Honorable Speaker, because healthcare is a matter so dear to all of us, Honorable Speaker, I would beg and I would call on the striking doctors, whether it's medical interns, whether it is the clinical officers, whether it is the lab technicians, give dialogue a chance. And I say this because, Honorable Speaker, having co-chaired the National Dialogue Committee, I am now an experienced chair in matters dialogue. And I can tell them dialogue does work. But dialogue will not work from the streets. Dialogue will work from your boardrooms or the Ministry of Health, not at the gates of Parliament. Stop blocking parliamentarians from coming to speak on your behalf. We are here to speak on your behalf. They shouldn't block the Honorable Njeri or Honorable Marian Keitani from accessing the gates of Parliament. Or indeed the leader of minority who was coming or he joined them to address them. Honorable Speaker, we should... let me say we empathize with them, but we also want to appeal to our medical professionals that as we deal with the challenges that are there in our country, they are part and parcel of our nation. Any patient that we lose during this strike will never recover, will never get back their life. So therefore, I want to appeal to them to get back to work. And those interns whose letters are already with their governors, please, medical interns, go pick up your letters and get back to work. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Dr. Nyikal. Honorable members, this was a progress or interim report on a petition. After Dr. Nyikal, we'll move to something else.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity. I feel sad that in this country,
Prosecute your views quickly, you have 3 minutes.
that in this country, when the lives of ordinary people is concerned, we speak without feelings. 2 days ago, a 2-year-old child died literally in my house, having gone to hospital for 2 days and not seen. Mr. Speaker, what we are seeing is a symptom of the problem of the health systems. We are dealing with human resource, we have this problem. We are dealing with supplies, we have problems in terms of you had them. We are dealing with financing, you know we are having problems there. Mr. Speaker, here, what we are dealing with is basically the definition of the human resource we have. Mr. Speaker, the word intern for doctors is international. It is not just here. It's all over the world. Mr. Speaker, what does an intern do? At the levels where interns work, they have qualified. They have got their degrees, MBCHB. They have taken the Hippocratic Oath. They are doctors. Now, when they work, it is like you employ a bank manager and say they're under probation and they still be supervised by that bank manager. You therefore do not say they're a student and you do not pay them. A doctor will see, an intern will see you, examine you, do the tests that are required, put you on treatment, review you. They will only seek advice from a consultant if they meet a problem, which is done in every profession. If they admit you today, nobody may see you until tomorrow when the round is done and they say this is what they are done and the patient is doing well, we are planning to discharge. If they have been in obstetrics, for example, for a month, they will be supervised when they are doing the first 1 or 2 cesarean sections. After that, they will do the cesarean sections on their own and report to their seniors. I've done this, I've done this. Please, Mr. Speaker, time is with us. I just want to give this explanation.
Order. If your time is up, it is up. I'll give you 1 minute to finish.
So, Mr. Speaker, when we equip an intern with all other interns, that is where the mistake is. And worldwide, it is not like that. Engineers, architects are in all countries. There is not the same thing.
Thank you, Dr. Nyikal. Next. Yes, member. Order, Nyikal. Yes, member for. Member for Stare. Order, Dr. Nyikal. I know you have vast experience in the medical world. It is. Order, it is not any different from what we have heard from Bukose and others. Go on, Mwenje. Not Mwenje. Mwango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I really wanted to contribute to this issue because the picketing is actually happening in my constituency, and I'm getting calls from all corners asking me what's going on in my constituency. And it is such a shame that we've come to this point that doctors can actually picket, given that the doctor's career is one of the most superior careers or most lucrative for us, mostly the youth. And the issue of interns, the issue of doctors, I happen to have a sit down with the officials of the association. And it is clear some members in this house do not understand the issues that the doctors are talking about. Because they have clear-cut issues, some which come from 2017 when they were promised some salary increment, and up to date that has not been effected. The issue of revising the salaries of the interns under the CBA system, where they are being forced to adopt the SRC system, which cut down their salaries from 2006,000 Kenyan shilling to 6,000 shillings.
Honorable Mwango, what you are saying is what is being prosecuted before the committee. And if you had listened to Honorable CTNA, you probably would have...
Yeah, I really wanted to bring the issue to the fore because I don't think the doctors are even in the mood to picket. It's only that they have not been listened to. And also there's the other issue that the majority leader has brought out so well, saying that there are more than 2,200 intern doctors who have graduated and are going to be adopted. As from the records, as from 2018, there are 7,893 doctors in this country. As of now, we have 9,000 and some 600 something. It's only 1,800 doctors who have been adopted and employed from interns to be doctors. So there are so many doctors who are overqualified who are working as interns in this country. And I agree with you that our interns are being overworked in the county hospitals, and it is only right that they be remunerated the right way. Paying a doctor 70,000 shillings is not even fair, and these are people who are charged to take care of the health care of our people. And we are saying the other time they picketed, they were confronted by the police, and even some of them were tear gassed. And we are saying any police officer who is going to tear gas these doctors, when he falls sick, he too should not be treated in these hospitals by these same doctors. Thank you.
Last on this, Ruku. 2 minutes or 3 minutes like everybody else.
Think of very serious functions as far as health sector is concerned. One of the functions, Mr. Speaker, is budgeting, financial management. Also, when it comes to medical supplies, as well as provision of emergency medicine. Mr. Speaker, all the dispensaries, level 4 hospitals, and level 5 hospitals across the nation are under the management of the county government. But almost 80% or more than 80% of the county government in the Republic of Kenya, they have failed Kenyans in a serious manner as far as management of health sector in our country is concerned. Mr. Speaker, this House must call upon all county government that they have to take this matter of health in the most serious manner. Failure to which we need to institute a constitutional change where we are going to ensure health sector should not be devolved. Even if it takes a referendum, Mr. Speaker. Kenyans are suffering, and they are suffering under the hands of our county government across the country. It is true, there are few counties which they have managed to manage the health sector in the most appropriate way. We have a few of them, 4 or so counties, but the rest is pathetic. If you go to Kenyatta Hospital, it's level 6 hospital. Kenyatta University Referral Hospital is level 6 hospital. We are now seeing some of these challenges, meaning that the national government is able to take care of the health sector, is able to take care of level 6 hospitals in the most appropriate way. But we have seen many problems in our level 5 hospitals, level 4 hospitals, and dispensaries. It is upon the county government to ensure they take their responsibility seriously, a responsibility which they have been mandated by the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. All the honorable members, members on their feet, take your seats. Members on their, take your seats. BK, take your seat. Thank you, honorable members. We'll go back to order number 2 for a communication that was delayed. Honorable members, I wish to welcome you back to the House after the short recess, which coincided with the observance of the Easter period for Christians and Ramadan for the Muslims. It is my hope that you are well renewed in your spirits and rejuvenated in your minds to resume of the business of the House for the remainder of the first part of this session. During this period, honorable members, this House is expected to consider various priority businesses, including assessing the suitability of persons nominated for appointment to the positions of ambassadors and high commissioners, ratification of the Kenya-European Union Economic Partnership Agreement, EPAS, consideration of priority bills, as well as the budget-related matters. Instructively, honorable members, it is projected that the National Treasury will submit the budget estimates for the national government for the financial year 2024-25 on or before 30th April 2024. Additionally, honorable members, you will recall that prior to the short recess, the House passed the Division of Revenue Bill 2024 and referred it to the Senate for bicameral consideration. It is therefore expected that the Senate will send the bill back together with the annual count allocation of revenue bill for financial year 2024-25 during this part of the session. From the foregoing, it is evident that the House has a full in-tray. As a result, your dedication and commitment to the business of the House, both in plenary and committees, will be of paramount significance. Honorable members, with respect to facilitation of members, the Parliamentary Service Commission is expediting the completion of the Bunge Tower in order to bridge the deficit in office accommodation for members. Consequently, PSC has established that members' offices in the building will be ready for occupation by the end of this week. Honorable members, you may recall, on 1st November 2022, I directed the clerk to allocate part of the building earmarked for the National Assembly in readiness for occupation at the appropriate time. Further, I prescribed the criteria for allocation, consequent to which the clerk allocated the offices, committee rooms, and auxiliary facilities in the tower. Having said that, honorable members, I also wish to inform the House that Kenya will host the 2024 annual meetings of the African Development Bank AFDB Group. The annual meetings will be held at the Kenyatta International Conference Center, KICC, from 27th to 31st May 2024, and will bring together high-level delegates, among them being heads of state and governments. In this regard, and in order to accord the delegates appropriate facilitation, the National Treasury has requested Parliament to release 47 offices at KICC to accommodate the dignitaries, with effect from Thursday, 11th April 2024. To this end, honorable members, the Parliamentary Service Commission has acceded to the request to temporarily release the offices released by the Commission at the KICC during the African Development Bank annual meetings. Clearly, this will necessitate the relocation of 42 members of this House who are currently accommodated at KICC. In this regard, honorable members, the first occupation of members' offices in the Bunge Tower will be undertaken in accordance with the schedule of allocation prepared by the Clerk of the National Assembly. Phase 1 will involve moving members from KICC to the Tower or other alternative accommodation, and this will commence on Thursday, 11th April 2024. For clarity, honorable members, the exercise will proceed as follows. First, all members currently in the Harambee Circle Plaza who are allocated offices in the tower will immediately relocate to their new offices in the Bunge Tower. This is intended to create room to accommodate members relocating from KICC who were unsuccessful in the balloting for offices in the Bunge Tower. And second, members with offices at KICC who are allocated offices in the Bunge Tower are to be relocated to the assigned offices in the Bunge Tower. Phase 2 of the relocation will entail the following: A, relocation of members from Continental House to the Bunge Tower for those who are allocated offices in the new tower. B, relocation of members from leased offices to the Bunge Tower from 1st July 2024. for the case of members who are allocated offices in the tower. And C, allocation of appropriate offices in other buildings within Parliament Square to members moving from Continental House or leased premises who are not allocated offices in the Bunge Tower. Honorable members, the measures stated above are for the convenience of all members and in preparation for the official opening of the Bunge Tower by the head of state later this month. I therefore urge you to cooperate with the Office of the Clerk in order to ensure seamless execution of this important exercise. Finally, honorable members, may I take this opportunity to wish the Muslim community in Parliament and in the entire nation Eid Mubarak. The House is accordingly guided. Thank you. And members, Musisumbue Clerk, if you are located an office and you are in KICC, you have to move by Thursday, day after tomorrow, because the Treasury is taking those offices to prepare for the ADB meeting that I've just mentioned. Please cooperate with the Office of the Clerk, and in a very short time to come, Bunge Tower will be opened officially, and we hope to move as many of members from both houses to that tower. Thank you.
Order number 8, the National Council for Population and Development Bill, National Assembly Bill number 72 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the establishment, roles and functions of the Kenya National Council for Population and Development and for the establishment of the board of the council and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Public Finance Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 2 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Finance Management Act 2012 and for connected purposes. Order number 10, the Technopolis Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to establish the Technopolis Development Authority to provide a framework for the development and management of technopolises and for connected purposes. Order number 11, the Cooperatives Bill, National Assembly Bill number 7 of 2024, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to establish the office of the Commissioner for Cooperative Development at the national level of government and the office of the County Director for Cooperatives in each county government to provide for promotion, registration and regulation of cooperatives, to provide for intergovernmental cooperative relations and for connected purposes.
Hold there. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, Musa Sirma. What you are doing is out of order. Honorable members, take your seats. I know it's the first day after a short recess, but the levels of excitement far outweigh the 2 weeks you have been away. Naisula, what's your point of order? Give her the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unless I did not hear clearly, but having listened to Honorable Sitene of Talbo and the weighty matter that she presented on the petition, Mr. Speaker, she was requesting for more time for them to complete the petition. And I thought that it would be important for you to give direction on how much more time they can have, looking at the gravity of the matter, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Naisula. I should have given you time at that time, but there was a lot of loud consultations. Honorable Sitiene, are you in the House? The way I understood it, Naisula, is Dr. Bukosi said I have permitted them actually to meet tomorrow, which has turned out to be a public holiday. So for them to invite outsiders to Parliament, our standing orders require 2 weeks, 7 days. So they have requested that they will expedite the invitations to meet on Tuesday. As to the Honorable CTNA, I hope that by the close of next week or a week after, we'll mention the matter. They will have concluded what they are doing to bring a report to the House. I know that that committee has a lot of backlog, but I was briefed today that they have improved and increased their speed in processing petitions in a manner that is unprecedented, and they are churning out reports that will be coming to the House. So members who have presented petitions on behalf of other Kenyans, when those reports come, you know we are not obligated to debate them. You need to go through them, and if there are any issues you wish to raise, you bring it to the attention of the Speaker, and I'll accommodate you. Thank you. Before we call the next order, honorable members, allow me to acknowledge the following in the public gallery: EAPC church pastors from Runyenjes in Embu, and Koiwa Central Secondary School from Konoin in Bomet. I've been requested by the Honorable Karemba to welcome his constituents from Embu. I'll give you 2 minutes, Honorable Karemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to welcome the clergy from the East Africa Pentecostal churches in Kenya. And I am very delighted, Honorable Speaker, to have these members of the clergy here, led by one Right Reverend Bishop John Jeru, who was once my Sunday school teacher, but has now become the general overseer of the church. Honorable Speaker, they have come at a time when we are having a doctor's strike, and their entry to Parliament has been obstructed. So it has taken them a little longer to get to this place. But I am sure, Honorable Speaker, that by them getting in here, things will never be the same again. I know them. I know how much they pray, and they are going to pray over this issue, and I am sure soon and very soon we are going to have a solution to the ongoing doctor strike. So, Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank you for the opportunity to welcome them. They have been very important in the service to humanity, and we have partnered with them long enough to offer services to our people, and we meet every so often to ensure that our people are properly taken care of, both spiritually and also politically. So thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Karemba. Next order.
Order number 12, the National Disaster Risk Management Bill, National Assembly Bill number 24 of 2023, second reading, resumption of debate.
Honorable members, is Honorable Andrew Okwome in the House? My record shows that he had 9 minutes to go. Is he in the House? Position forfeited. Now, honorable members, I see the screen is full with Honorable Ounda at the top. Is it to debate this bill, or we are there for something else? Give Ounda the mic.
Mr. Honorable Speaker, I also welcome you back from the short recess.
Yes.
I've already made my contribution on this bill,
Yes.
so I leave it for somebody else to continue. I already made my contribution.
Honorable, just hold on. Honorable members, if you are on the screen, it's very good. You have now been wiped out. So if you want to speak to this bill, now you can log in. Ounda, proceed.
already made a contribution to this bill. That's why I'm logging out, Chair.
You had already made a contribution?
Yes, yes.
Why were you top on the list on my screen?
Well, probably just like me, Honorable Speaker. It's not my mistake.
Honorable Geoffrey Ruku.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to contribute or to support this bill as far as National Disaster Risk Management Bill is concerned. Mr. Speaker, I realize this country has witnessed a number of disasters, and one of the problems which we have always faced when we have a national disaster is mobilization of resources to mitigate deadly outcomes. And mostly we have disasters such as drought. At the moment we are witnessing floods as well as terror attacks. So this bill will seek to ensure we extend mobilization of resources so that in case of drought, many families and lives are not lost. In case of floods, we ensure there is immediate mobilization of resources to take care of floods. Also, we have seen terror attacks in this country, but we are fortunate enough at the moment we have stayed for quite a number of years without any terror attack, and we thank our security agencies for the good work they are doing. But in case of a terror attack, Mr. Speaker, we need a proper law in place to ensure there is quick mobilization of resources to ensure it is well taken care of. Also, Mr. Speaker, the formalization of ensuring there is proper public-private partnership in case of a disaster. When we have a disaster, Mr. Speaker, there are always consequences which may need in future to be mitigated so that the impact of that disaster may not stay with us for ages. And therefore, a situation where we may want to have public-private partnership, this bill is bringing in such a kind of a model which can be adopted to ensure there is a proper formulation of a public-private partnership. Also, Mr. Speaker, we know that disasters, there is loss of life, there is loss of property. This bill will ensure that there will be less or there will be reduction of loss of life and property occasioned by disasters such as floods, such as drought, and such as terror attack. Mr. Speaker, I think this is a good bill which is looking into the posterity of our nation, and that's why I do support. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Beatrice Elachi. Honorable Undo, you said you had already spoken on this bill.
Thank you, Mr.
You've logged in again.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support this bill. And Mr. Speaker, just to speak on the perennial disasters that we normally find ourselves, especially in Nairobi, and one of them being indeed now the floods that we have. And when you look at the memorandum of objects, Mr. Speaker, the bill establishes the Intergovernmental Council on Disaster Risk Management and the National Risk Management Authority to ensure that there is coordination of disaster risk management issues at the national and county level. But it also says in one of the articles, Mr. Speaker, that the President may, and I'm wondering, may, when there is a disaster, why would the President may?
the president should be the word that we need to use. Because when we are talking of disasters, Mr. Speaker, that is the time now where we need the national government to come in. Because when you look at how county governments are structured today, Mr. Speaker, and any disaster that happens, even just the recent one, that we had a flash rain on a Sunday night and the whole thing goes into disaster, Mr. Speaker, we find that the counties will take more than 10 hours to come and even just support a very simple thing that needs to be done. And so if you tell me in disaster's time that now the national government should not come in, then that one we will have serious challenges in this country. We've seen disasters in Mandera, we've seen what has happened there, either in drought or in floods or even just buildings coming down. So one of the things we should be asking ourselves, as much as the bill looks at the shared functions and it says this is a shared function between the national and county government, I think, Mr. Speaker, we must ensure this is a more function of the national government. What the county can only come and do to support is to ensure they avail not resources of money, but manpower. But resources must come from the national government, just the way in the US when they have a national disaster. It is the federal government that comes in to stand with the people. Mr. Speaker, the other thing, Kenyans don't know when they are in disaster about county or national. So why can't we just tie up the bill and just say when there is serious disaster, it is the national government to take responsibility? And Mr. Speaker, when you look at part 1 of the bill, which contains the preliminary provisions, but then when you move down, you ask yourself, this council of intergovernmental, is it a council now where you bring us again the national team, which is already there, plus the county, or we get people who are expertise, who understand how to deal with disaster? The other day I looked at Thailand, Mr. Speaker, and they had an earthquake. And everyone in the world was shocked in how they managed that disaster. And the next morning when people were waking up, they had cleared even the bodies. They are now just removing those who are stuck and everything. So even as we speak at this, we must know as a country, we are never ready on any disaster. We are never ready. We now find ourselves in disaster is when we wake up and realize disaster is happening. So for me, the first thing, and we must do the simple things that create now disaster. Like now, we know why we have floods in Nairobi. It's because the drainages are blocked. And so who are those responsible in ensuring, first of all, we have drainage, second, they are unblocked? The county has to just look at it, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that comes in at the right time, yes, but it's a bill we need to really ask ourselves, because I can see many of the functions sought to go back to the counties, and yet we are saying the counties do not have capacity for now. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we support this bill, there is need for us to tidy up a lot of the things that have been put. And one of the things we are saying, for example, the office of a member of a county committee shall become, that was when they are becoming vacant. But this county committee that we are putting, Mr. Speaker, if now we already have, how do we ensure, first of all, they are empowered? And so we must ask ourselves where the national government is, because I can see the county committee, and when you hear what the national government is coming to do, then you realize this is a function you have ensured, skewed it more to the counties, yet we know very well they don't have money to deal with these disasters. The thing that counties deal with mostly, Mr. Speaker, in their disaster is when they are looking for unga to buy for the people who are hungry, sometimes mabati. But these tough things that come, and God forbid, the way we are doing all these things in Nairobi, the housing and all that, if anything happens, and with this rain, the way it is raining every day, Mr. Speaker, we have to be very serious when we are saying we want this function to be with the county. So for me, Mr. Speaker, I propose that when we come to really the committee of the whole, we need to look at how do we tie them up and ensure the national government takes control of more of these disasters than the county governments. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you, Member for Dagoretti. Timothy Toroitich, Marakwet West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on this very important motion on national disaster, bill on national disaster risk management. Honorable Speaker, under the Constitution, disaster management is a function of the county government. But Honorable Speaker, if you read the fourth schedule, it suggests that this function is a shared function. Honorable Speaker, it is prudent that we set up a proper legal and institutional framework to manage disaster in this country. Honorable Speaker, whenever there is disaster in this country, what normally happens is that the county government allocates money. The national government allocates money to the county governments, but this money has never been utilized to meet its intended purpose. Honorable Speaker, the formation of the formation of what you call intergovernmental council to be able to oversee the funds that have been channeled to the county government is, for me, a fundamental way of solving issues of disaster in this country. Honorable Speaker, disaster cannot be said to belong to either the national government or the county government. When a disaster strikes, the people who are affected do not belong to the national government, do not belong to the county government. Honorable Speaker, these are the residents of this country. They are those who occupy Kenya, and therefore the national government and the county government must be able to sit down and be able to resolve the challenges faced by people without selecting whether it is a national government and or a county government. Honorable Speaker, what is happening now is that this matter, the issues of disasters in this country, as we speak, is purely the purpose of a county government. Honorable Speaker, in my opinion, when it comes to the review of our constitution, which must ultimately come in the near future, this function should and must be transferred fully to the national government. Honorable Speaker, in this country, under Article 91 of the Constitution, the county governments are charged with making laws in certain devolved functions. But Honorable Speaker, there is a problem because of what you call cross-border legislations. Honorable Speaker, since this matter is devolved, you find that already 47 county governments have made various legislations which sometimes are conflicting. Honorable Speaker, we must have a cross-border legislation. Honorable Speaker, the only way which you can have a cross-county legislation is establishing a national legal framework, which we are doing today, so that we provide a uniform legislation that guides the 47 county governments. Honorable Speaker, we have a challenge in this country in terms of conflict of legislations that are being channeled by county assemblies for the reason that certain functions are devolved. So, Honorable Speaker, we must think as a country that if a function is shared between the national government and between the national government and the county government, then there must be a uniform set of law that provides very clearly that this function is shared, and for that reason we do not have what you call conflict of legislations which may bring issues. Honorable Speaker, we have challenges. For example, I had a chance to work in the county government, in the county assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet. Honorable Speaker, I am one of the drafters of the Elgeyo Marakwet County Assembly legislation on disaster management. But Honorable Speaker, as I was drafting that legislation, I realized that there was a problem because where I was as the legal counsel acting for the county assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet at that time, I realized that my neighboring county, which is Uasin Gishu County Government, had also had a similar legislation on the issue of disaster. Honorable Speaker, for example, if at that period of time this other county do not have enough facilities, then it means the neighboring county must be able to assist another county in terms of facilities. Honorable Speaker, if we do not have a uniform legislation, if we do not have an authority which governs both the national government and the county government, if we don't have our council, which is intergovernmental, then you may realize that another county may suffer at the expense of another county. So, Honorable Speaker, I rise, I support this legislation and pray that this authority that has been established will serve its intended purpose as was envisaged, as was provided for in the Constitution. Finally, Honorable Speaker, I have read the functions of this particular intergovernmental council which has been provided under clause 6 of the bill. Honorable Speaker, one of the functions of this intergovernmental council is to advise and make recommendations to the cabinet and the Senate. Honorable Speaker, whenever there is an emergency, whenever there is a disaster, the cabinet must be notified and shall be notified by this council, so that county governments, whenever there is a disaster in a particular county, the county governments cannot make decisions without involving the national government. For me, Honorable Speaker, that is a plus. Honorable Speaker, number 2, also this intergovernmental council shall be able to provide policy direction and approve plans on all activities related to disaster risk management. Honorable Speaker, as I have said, the disaster cannot belong to a particular county. When a disaster strikes, it affects our citizens, it affects Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, therefore, there must be a specific policy direction that is approved by that particular council. Honorable Speaker, if you look at it further, it is also to receive and consider and make decisions based on reports and recommendations. Honorable Speaker, this House makes certain policy recommendations that there must be a council that approves of authority. Honorable Speaker, I have read the bill. That council must be one that serves both levels of government and therefore is entitled to make that particular. Honorable Speaker, finally, that authority, that council also reports to the cabinet. Honorable Speaker, the cabinet, in terms of policy directives on policies that affect government, must be approved at the cabinet level. So, Honorable Speaker, that particular council ensures that decisions relating or policies relating to disaster management are approved by the cabinet. Honorable Speaker, I will finish. I commend the direction we have taken as a country. I commend the direction we have taken as a House, that, Honorable Speaker, when a matter is shared between the national government and the county government, then as a House, we must sit down, we scrutinize the fourth schedule, so that we do not have what you call conflict of legislations emanating from our county assemblies. We must have a uniform set of laws that governs the 47 counties in this country, to avoid conflict of legislation and conflict of representation in various cadres. Honorable Speaker, I rise, I support this bill. When it comes to the committee of the whole House, I will propose the necessary amendments so that we can be able to strengthen the provisions of this particular proposed legislation. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Timothy. Honorable members, order. Before I give the next speaker, allow me to recognize in the speakers and public gallery students, and I believe with teachers, from Ogande Girls High School, Homa Bay Town in Homa Bay. I've been requested by the Honorable TJ Kajwang to welcome the students. I'll give you 1 minute, TJ, because it's in the middle of debate. Give
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for asking me to welcome a huge delegation from Ogande Girls Secondary School. 300 girls visiting us. We have had delegations of students visiting us, but we have not had 300 students coming in one delegation. These are fourth formers, history students, as you see them, brilliant and bright. And on behalf of their member, Honorable George Opondo Kaluma, I want to welcome them to this house, that they have an opportunity to see the Speaker himself. And the House has assembled. This should give them inspiration that in a few months coming, these young people should be doctors that we were talking about this morning. These young people should, very few should be lawyers, and none should be a politician, but most of them should be engineers. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you. Honorable Gideon Muriungi, Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this very important bill, the National Disaster Risk Management Bill. Mr. Speaker, there has been a problem in Kenya. Whenever we are faced with a disaster, the coordination of responses is disjointed. And in most cases, we are mainly reactive and not reactive. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support that we establish the Intergovernmental Council on Disaster Management and the National Disaster Risk Management Authority at both the levels of government, both at the national government and the county government. Because in most cases, the county government does not know what the national government is doing, and also the national government does not know what the county government is doing. Mr. Speaker, there has been in the past many disasters witnessed in Kenya. And some of them, they just happen and nothing happens in terms of responses. If I give an example, Mr. Speaker, when we were attacked by terrorists at the Westgate Mall, Mr. Speaker, there was a lot of hues and cries all over, and the coordination was not well done. And therefore, if there is a standing authority, a standing committee that is prepared and on a day-to-day basis deals with the disaster and nothing else, in my view, I think the country will be moving in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, as we gather here in this house, the gate of Parliament is closed by mandate because of a problem that has arisen. And Mr. Speaker, I consider this one as a disaster because many Kenyans are dying in hospitals because of lack of doctors. And an authority like this one, which prepares for such kind of cases, will come in handy to deal with cases of disasters, because what is happening in our hospitals now is a disaster. Mr. Speaker, the other day we witnessed El Nino rains all over Kenya, and many roads were destroyed, and there has been no intervention at all in terms of repairing most of those roads. Some of them are trunk roads, some of them are feeder roads, and in a situation whereby we have this kind of an authority and an apex coordination committee, it will deal with disconnected roads all over the country whenever those kind of emergencies happens. Mr. Speaker, also we are witnessing a lot of increased level of road carnage. And Mr. Speaker, a situation like this one can be addressed by an authority like this one, which deals with the emergencies of road carnage. Mr. Speaker, we have also in the past witnessed increased high cost of living, farming in the northern frontiers and also in the counties in Ukambani, where relief food is being distributed all over the counties,
And Mr. Speaker, an authority like this one will prepare itself to deal with such kind of emergencies. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, where I come from, I want to support this on behalf of the people of Mwingi, that we establish this disaster risk management committee and authority so that it can deal with disasters in Kenya. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert Basiru.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill on very many reasons. We need to acknowledge that disasters such as floods, famine, fire, and diseases disrupt functioning of community, more so increase vulnerabilities. Mr. Speaker, one of the key reasons why I support this bill is because disasters strike without any particular warning, and it's important to caution our people from loss of life and properties. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we need to equip our people with the right skills and training, and having a fund to support training and capacity building is very essential and is one of the reasons why I support this particular bill. Number three, Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure our people recover better. We call it building back better. And this can only be facilitated when we have a fund that can be able to support such an initiative. Number four, Mr. Speaker, a proper response to disaster issues or the destruction caused by disasters is important. And this particular fund will support response to disasters, and that is why, Mr. Speaker, I add my voice to support the bill. Number five, Mr. Speaker, we need to understand that although disaster management is a shared responsibility between the county government and the national government, the issues to do with the capacity of county government to manage disaster, more so the fund for disaster response, is questionable. And that's why, as a house, when we are going to be making an amendment to this bill, we need to agree where to sit this particular fund so that at least we bestow or we place the fund to an authority or a government with the right capacity, and no doubt that is the national government that will be able to manage the fund and make sure it is properly utilized. So, Mr. Speaker, now I can see Madam Speaker, I do say that with the due consideration, and having looked to the important function this particular fund is going to play, I fully support the bill, and I do applaud the move of the bill, who is the leader of majority, Honorable Ichung'wah, for bringing the bill, which is very timely, considering now we are times of rains, and we are likely to witness floods, which are going to cause destructions. And more so when you hear floods, we can't talk, or we can't exonerate waterborne diseases like cholera, which are likely to emerge because of the current rains and floods. So having a fund is important, and I support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Teso South, Honourable Mary Emase.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this bill. Madam Speaker, this is a very good bill. From the onset, I support, because it is bringing together, creating a link between national government and county government on issues management of disaster. Because what we have seen in the past, Madam Speaker, flooding in many areas of this country, accidents, name them, you find that there is no coordination, and response is delayed. And sometimes these monies, when they are sent to the county governments, because it's a devolved function to deal with the issues of disaster, sometimes the money, there are issues of accountability in respect to the management of these resources. So when I see that there will be a disaster committee in every county, that onboards all important stakeholders like the Red Cross, St. John's Ambulance, County Commissioner, County Commander, the Governor, and all stakeholders within the county. And this particular council will just be focusing and dedicating and putting all its efforts towards management of disaster. Then, Honorable Speaker, I will foresee a situation where we're going to have proper management and quick responses to addressing or mitigating issues around a disaster. So, Madam Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member, Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I also stand to support this particular bill because, Honorable Speaker, I actually believe that this bill has come to the House at the right time, and I think it's very progressive because in the past we've always been dealing with disaster issues in this country with a knee-jerk reaction. We wait until a disaster occurs and then we quickly look for a solution that only solves the problem at that particular time, or in some instances doesn't even solve it. And Honorable Speaker, when I say this, I'm just thinking back, reflecting back to the last 2 weeks, when we had a situation where the expressway was flooded and we could not be able to access it. And yet, if we had such an authority within the county of Nairobi, they would have been able to actually analyze situations based on historical data that we have to be able to know whether or not something is going to happen or preempt issues that are going to happen. Honorable Speaker, especially during a time when we have so many climate change issues, and the climate change issues that we have range from different counties, and different counties experience different types of issues. Like, for example, Honorable Speaker, when I speak about my county in Nyamira, the disasters and risk management issues that are in that county would probably be very different from another county like Mombasa. And so having these particular authorities customized to the specific counties is very progressive. And Honorable Speaker, I want to also believe that once this is established, that the people who will be part of these particular authorities will be able to go back into the history of the different types of disasters, the different types of risk associated with the areas that they are they govern, so that they can be able to actually customize them according to their areas. Honorable Speaker, of particular interest for me is part 3 of the bill, where it talks about classification of disaster plans and electronic information system. And why I like this, Honorable Speaker, is because with time and the fact that we are very much in the technological space, we need to actually customize our bills to be able to bring in an aspect of IT. Because, Honorable Speaker, without data, you will not be able to even have a clear view of what you're dealing with. You need data, Honorable Speaker, for you to be able to even make a comprehensive report, and for you to be able to even speak to other people who you want to be able to assist as well. Honorable Speaker, I also like the part that in part 2 of part 3 of the electronic information system, that it also mentions that this data will be accessible to the public. And not only that, but that also they will ensure that Data Protection Act of 2019 is taken into consideration. Because, Honorable Speaker, again, for as much as we want our people to be able to access data, we must also safeguard them. But in having said that, we cannot safeguard ourselves too much to an extent that we are stifling innovation. And Honorable Speaker, I'd just like to throw a spanner in the works in terms of this particular bill, because I've gone through it, but I've not seen any aspect of AI. And what I'm talking about, Honorable Speaker, is, for example, the current issue we have with our fertilizer. If we had a drone-based system in this country that would have been able to quickly analyze the fertilizer that you're receiving, analyze the soils, figure out what the pH of the soils is, and be able to determine note to note in terms of what you want to actually put in different soils, then we'd not be having this kind of problems. And so I just want to urge all of us, when you're coming up with these very progressive bills like this particular one, we should also always include an aspect of AI, because artificial information, Honorable Speaker, is very important. We cannot ignore it anymore in this country, and it also just helps us to make our work easy. And so I just want to encourage the person who sponsored this bill, at the time of amendments, when the amendments come, and we bring in amendments that are relating to IT and information system, that they do allow us to bring in some of these progressive ideas. Honorable Speaker, with those very short remarks, I do support.
The Honorable Member for Kwanza, Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill. I think it's very important that we establish units or departments in both that can be able to correspond with whatever happens in the county. Currently, Madam Speaker, you see, and from the experience, at times you find something has happened in the county, and you find there's no spark up, either from the government or from the county government. So if we have set up a coordination, a departmental unit that will be able to deal with whatever disaster that we'll be able to have, you never know, one of which is, for example, we have these floods. The floods sometimes affect areas, and then of course you as a member of parliament, you don't know whether it should come to you, and you don't have that kind of money for emergency. When you involve the county government, they equally say they don't have that kind of thing. But if you have that disaster management unit to be able to assist, we have cases where, for example, a bridge is broken because of the flooding or whatever disaster it is. Madam Speaker, you find yourself in a very awkward situation. As a leader, you don't know who to refer to. Had a case, for example, of flood covering almost there were two wards. I didn't even know what to do, because when I called my counterpart, I called my governor, and he said, but where do I get the money from? I didn't even have that as well. So, Madam Speaker, this is quite appropriate, and I think what we should do is to have this risk management bill passed as soon as possible, so that we can be able to allocate whatever funds are going to be there and give the guidelines as to how to use that fund. Because of course, if you just put it there, it's so that we have, if there's any emergency, you have got the central government through the member of parliament or women rep involved, plus of course the county government, so that it can be a secondary to the expenditure of such funds. Because risk management, Madam Speaker, risk management bill, as I say it here, is something very, very important, and I think I request this House to pass it yesterday, not today, not tomorrow, so that can be able to move faster and be able to deal with some of the disasters that actually occur without giving a warning. So I want to take this opportunity to support this, and I hope the House can have this, because we are members who are affected all the time. Even some of the small little things like a bridge or even a road. So you find that they are actually coming to you. And if you have this kind of funds, you can be able to see how much each side can spend. So I support this bill. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Sigor, Honorable Locha Kapong. Oh, yes, I'm told you're the mover, but you have your card, so you can actually, pull it out. Okay, thank you. The Honorable Edith Nyenze, member for Kitui West.
Speaker, I would like to contribute to the next one. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kisumu, Honorable Shakil Shabir.
Madam, I'm actually beaten. I was just trying to log in, so I'll be excused, please. I don't have a contribution at this moment.
The Honorable Member for Vihiga, Honorable Beatrice Adagala.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute on this bill. And on the onset, Madam Speaker, I'll support this bill before I even talk, because it has come at the right time, whereby we have several emergencies that take place in the country, and especially our counties. You'll find, like my county, there is a disaster, a school has burnt down, or anything like in the gold mines, they rush to the county woman MP looking for money to sponsor those kind of disasters. And Madam Speaker, in our kit, as you all know, the women rep have no money to go towards such disasters. Like there was a case in one of the wards whereby the rains caused havoc, so many houses were blown away, and people look at you as the county woman rep to go and give money for those kind of calamities, which we cannot afford to bear, Madam Speaker. So I think if this can be put into consideration, and also the county government plus the national government, we put our efforts together so that when we have a kit for this kind of disaster when it happens. Like right now, you are seeing floods all over, houses are being swept, and now we have it very rough as members of parliament, and especially the women reps, because everybody, when houses are swept, everybody tells the people, the women rep can do that, and the county governments, the governors keep quiet. So it means that we are not prepared as a county or a country for this kind of disaster. So this bill may cure what is needed, Madam Speaker, and I'm very sure I will support this with all my strength. We want to see something put into place and which can be managed very well, not like that scenario where we were hearing of money being put aside for El Nino. You hear blame games here and there. Measures should be put in place whereby this fund, once it's been set aside, can be handled by a certain committee which can really assist, Madam Speaker. And if this is done, it will really assist us. Schools that get burnt all the time, floods that come all the time, the wind that blow away houses, because I'm very much affected, because when this happen, they always send to the women rep to get in charge to take care of such incidents, and we don't have funds for that. So, Madam Speaker, I really support this bill, and I support it. Thank you.
The Honorable Naomi Wako, member for Marsabit.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important bill. Madam Speaker, anything to manage disaster that comes to us from time to time is something that we should all give support, and establishing Council of Disaster Risk Management is the most important thing that we can do today, because from time to time you see that we land into problems, especially like now when it is raining. It is in some areas, it is already, people are already displaced because of the floods, and especially in the areas that some of us come from, even the wind comes and blows off the schools, the roofs, and then even the houses, and most of the time we land into problems that we are not even prepared for. So if at the county level and at the national level, we have National Disaster Risk Management Bill, then that can guide and can help. Many are the times that we even lose people because of the disasters in different ways. The fire, sometimes some people can experience fire and they lose their homes, they lose their properties, and they lose even their lives. So the best thing that can help us is to have this bill in place so that we can be able to manage that. I support the bill because of the composition of the board members, the qualified people who are to be there, so that in any board, then we have qualified people, we have people who are well experienced, so that they can hold the offices and have the right thing in place. The bill has taken care of different things, vacation of offices. It has also taken care of functions of the board. It has taken care of the powers of the board, and also identified or talks of the committees of the board and delegation of the board. All that ensures good care of the entire bill, and also what it does at the ground level. So, Madam Speaker, I am just supporting the bill and pray that many people will support, and that this bill will be soon in place for implementation, because it will support Kenyans and help Kenyans who will run maybe into any disaster and who needs some support. Thank you.
Before we continue, I'm very proud to welcome the students from Little Lambs Primary School from my Naipoi constituency, Uasin Gishu County. You can stamp your feet for them. That's my constituency and the school of former school of my nephew Brian Boss. You're welcome. On behalf of myself and the rest of Parliament, I welcome you to these proceedings. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bondo, Honorable Gideon Ochanda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I rise to support the bill, I think there are three things that we need to look at very keenly. When we look at disaster, we look at the issue of emergencies, and we look at the issue of crisis. Now, I think these three things, we really have to either define them or to place them exactly where they belong and to be prepared for them. Because many times, what will, sometimes even the kind of debate that we are having around here now, Madam Speaker, is indicating a disaster as a crisis. But then there are many times that we also must look at disaster as an emergency. And when you look at disaster as an emergency, the level of preparedness in this country is almost zero. Emergency or disaster does not go with bureaucracy. And what we have, and even some of the proposals that we are talking about, are still creating bureaucratic arrangements. You are still talking about a council, you are still talking about arrangements in terms of how to get to address issues of emergency or issues of disaster, Madam Speaker. So in my view, we have to really rethink as a nation in terms of how we want to look at disaster. There are situations like when you look at the kind of bureaucracy or levels of approvals that you need to respond to a disaster. I think sometimes they are very unnecessary. I remember a situation that arose here one time where there were people who were stuck in the lake because of hyacinth. And getting a response, because we wanted a chopper just to airlift some 2 or 3 people. Imagine the guys are stuck in waters and we are told you must write to some disaster committee in Eldoret, or you must write to somebody in charge of the police system for purposes of emergency. For how long do you look at this thing, look at in terms of raising a letter to get to an office, to have a council sit down to approve that this disaster is actually a disaster that requires a response? So, Madam Speaker, we really have to think of this generally. And when we think of it, we must look at the proper definition of these things, because sometimes we are trying to place arrangements for emergencies, yet we don't place arrangements for crises that even we are forewarned. Like when we are talking about disaster in terms of flooding now, these ones we are forewarned. They can't be a disaster anymore. When we are talking about drought, we are many times forewarned. There are signals that are sent. So when we are looking at that, we don't need to look at it as a disaster. We need to look at it in terms of how well are we prepared for purposes of signals. Because that's not a disaster in my view. That's a crisis in waiting, and we are forewarned. We are told that no, this is likely to happen. We are now told that rains are going to be with us here until June, for example. The level of preparedness, why do we want the no more bureaucracy to address a crisis? Because these are some of the things that, as we are forewarned, we really now need to put arrangements that can take care of issues of crisis, but not issues of disaster. So, but when you look at that as a disaster in the direction of an emergency, some of these bureaucracies are unnecessary. We need spot-on reporting system that can respond to when there are emergencies. And I think that's where some of the members, in my view, are either taking disasters to be crises which you need to prepare, or some are taking disaster as emergencies. But if you look at them as emergencies, we are less prepared as a nation. Emergencies don't need bureaucracy. Emergencies need spot-on responses, and this is a structure that must be placed outside the arrangements for crisis. Crises that we are forewarned, crises that indicators are clearly there that they are going to take place. So those ones require an arrangement that we don't try to put together in terms of disaster management, Madam Speaker. And then again, issues of disaster sometimes require immediate low-level responses. We are constantly talking about national, that we don't need to have a national council. How do you respond to a disaster in a village through a national council? How do you respond to small little disasters that happen in a school or happen in a setup in the communities, and you want to look at a national office, a national agency, a national bureaucracy to respond to them, Madam Speaker? So in my view, immediately we separate the issues of crisis from disaster and from emergencies is when we'll be establishing proper infrastructure for responding to them, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Daniel Kirito, member for Gembe Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving this opportunity to add my voice to this very important bill. Madam Speaker, the National Disaster Management Authority will be very crucial and very important areas in this country. Madam Speaker, the disasters that have been falling in this country have caused us a lot of damages and a lot of losses. Madam Speaker, the main essence of this agency is mostly on prevention. This country has become a country of age, and it will be very embarrassing whereby we are met our pants down by disasters without being prepared. Madam Speaker, for example, the flooding. The country should be prepared and have policies on place and know when the rains will be excess, so that you can be in a position even to collect the funds and use that rain in future for other for useful purposes. Madam Speaker, the country cannot afford to be losing year in, year out through these floods. Madam Speaker, we have cases of burning of schools, burning of properties, whereby in most cases you find electricity which have been faultily placed. We should be in a position to be prepared properly to be able to avoid such unnecessary damages and losses. So if we are able to plan effectively and before these disasters come, we can save a lot of funds which are which end up being destroyed through these disasters. Madam Speaker, we have some other disasters. Even this rustling of cattle should be considered as a disaster in this country, because you find a community, a family that has used all their resources to put up a farm and put up animals. The rustlers come and steal them, That one also should be considered as a disaster, and the organization should also take care of that to know how to compensate those who will be losing their animals. So in short, Madam Speaker, I'm supporting this bill, and I think we should be prepared earlier enough so that we can be able to counter these disasters beforehand. And it will be very embarrassing for a country like Kenya, which has gone miles in technology advancement, not to be in a position to detect disasters in time before they strike. And most of these disasters are what example, for example, the flooding and the burning of some institutions are things that should be early enough detected. The authority from the county level will be very vital, because in some counties you find they don't have even fire extinguishers, even machines to put out fire are not in place. Therefore, this agency management will be having those equipment in place so that you can fight those disasters in time before more destructions are done. We also need the post-disaster rehabilitations. There are communities that have earned all their properties lost in these disasters. We need counseling centers where those who have been affected can be taken through counseling so that they can continue with their lives after the disasters. Because some end up losing everything, they lose their lives. Others end up even angry with themselves after realizing that they've lost everything. So after the post-disaster rehabilitation should be handled properly, whereby you can have counseling centers for the affected members of the community. We also have the openness and the management of the resources, which will be managed by authority, by the team, and it will be very important that whatever is given to run this the disaster management, there will be openness and accountability, and that will go very far in making sure that the real targets and areas that have been affected have thoroughly been taken care of, and the affected are served. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
The Honourable Member for Lungalunda, Honourable Magale.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to contribute on this very crucial bill. And I want to say on the onset that I support the bill, because it is really touching on very crucial matter, which of course has been mishandled by the fact that always we are saying that disaster is devolved. Now, when anything happens in the counties and all over the country, then it becomes a blame game. But then also, what makes me to be very curious about this bill is that there's a special team, which maybe it will be at the national level, but I will wish to suggest that as much as we would wish to have the team, whether an authority or whatever name it will be given, but let that team be cascaded down to the counties and even to the wards, so that the response can be so quick to ensure that the affected people around the country or in the wherever they'll be getting the response very quickly and be salvaged. But again, I want to say that even the classification of disasters, like the wild animals, let me say in my area where I come from, sometimes the farmers are being affected in one way or the other. The jumbos or elephants come into their farms, destroy the farm products or the produce, and then in one night the whole sub-county or the whole village doesn't have or it's affected by the wild animals. Then this should also be classified as also a disaster, but now to emphasize on the issue of the commonly known disasters like floods, many other disasters. I wish to say that when it happens, then the coordination should be actually from the grassroots, as I've earlier said, that the committee which should be formed should emanate from the village level coming up. So the coordination should be in that the member of parliament, the women rep, the MCAs, and any other important leader who is actually affected or in charge of the affected area should be put into consideration, because we don't want a situation where a disaster has taken place, then now it becomes phone calls, and whoever is being called, he doesn't know where to start and how to do it. There should be a very important communication strategy, whereas everybody will be brought on board and be responsible. Because as we speak today, it is either the county commissioner or the governor who is supposed to take responsibility. But I wish to state here that the member of parliament in this case are always being blamed that the roads, the bridges, and all these disasters which take place, the member of parliament and the women rep, so to say, are the ones who are affected first. So as we form the authority or whatever organ which will be formed to address this issue, then I would propose that either a representative of the MP and the member of the women rep be in those committees, and I will submit and to say that I support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member John Makali, member for Kandui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to also weigh in on this particular bill. At the outset, Madam Speaker, I will say I actually support the bill wholeheartedly. Schedule 4 of our Constitution actually grants the power to manage and control disasters to our county governments. Equally, Schedule 5 gives national government also powers to control issues related to disasters. So this bill, Madam Speaker, comes in at a very handy stage to provide a legal framework for the management of disasters, risks, and emergencies. Madam Speaker, in the past we have had floods, we have had droughts, we have had animals dying, we have had many risks in our respective constituencies and counties. But ultimately, we have not had a legal framework that provides for the coordination and management of risks and disasters as and when they occur. So, Madam Speaker, this bill, whose object is basically to provide a legal framework for the coordination of disaster and risk management activities both at the national level and at the county level, is appropriate and is welcome at this particular stage. Of critical concern and importance in this particular bill is the creation of an authority that will be able to coordinate all these activities relating to droughts, disasters that happen and occur in our constituencies, counties, and the country at large. This authority that is created will be able to harness information, coordinate all the activities, so that we do not approach the issue of disasters and risk in an uncoordinated manner like we have been doing in the past, because there has been no legal framework. So this particular bill comes in to fill a lacuna that has been existing in our laws, the absence of a legal framework. We keep on saying, Madam Speaker, information is power. If we look at Chapter 3 of this particular bill, it sets up an electronic management system that has to give information, provide information to apprehend disasters that are supposed to come, to look at past events and be able to apprehend them so that we can be able to control them. So the bill is literally well-intentioned, Madam Speaker. In the recent past, we have had disasters that have come, and we have not really managed them very well. We have had funds allocated to them, but those funds have not been properly managed. They have become cash cows for some individuals who have taken disasters as an avenue to misappropriate funds. This bill has ample provisions that criminalize misappropriation of funds that have actually been set apart for management of disasters in our respective constituencies, wards, and counties. And of critical importance, Madam Speaker, Article 6 of our Constitution critically says that the county governments and the national governments shall consult and cooperate in the delivery of services to the citizenry. This particular bill sets provisions for coordination between the national government and the county government in the management of disasters. During the Committee of the Whole House, Madam Speaker will be making some proposals to amend several provisions regarding the composition of these county committees, and the national committees will be able to deal with issues relating to disaster and risk, to include other provisions that will make this act more fulfilling its objects. Madam Speaker, I entirely support this bill and urge that we pass it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Edith Nyanze, member for...
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to hear my views on this bill. It seeks to establish a risk management authority, and I actually support it because it also seeks to establish a risk management fund, which will provide funds for risks disaster, so that we as a country, we are prepared and also have a mitigation response in risk management matters. So it's actually a bill which has come at the right time to actually address some of the issues which have affected us as a country and which has caused a lot of death in our country. And with such, it also seeks to establish an authority, and with such an authority, we'll have a central place where disasters can be reported, where emergencies can be reported, and it's even better because there is a risk management committee in the counties where the governor is the chair, and with such representation up to the counties, then it would be very easy to even report disasters, because from such committees, then they will be able to establish whether a risk is for the county to handle or whether it's a national disaster for the national government to handle. And in the past, the combination has been blamed for slow response to crisis. The combination has been blamed, but now with the establishment of such an authority and with the presence in the county, then the response will be very fast, and this will save lives. So it has come at the right time. But Madam Speaker, some of the disasters which occur every time, it should reach a time when they are no longer labeled, should not be labeled as disasters. Because if something comes every time, if there is flooding in a river every time, then we should come up with a solution, because you already know the problem. A solution of either building a bridge or coming up with a solution. Something like drought. This is something which we know if some areas will be, especially also areas will be affected. And with this risk management fund, with the funds, then what can be done is that when there is plenty of harvest, food can be stored, and so that when there is drought, such areas would be actually be provided with food. So with such a fund and with such an authority, then some of the risks should with time stop being disasters. With such a fund, something like fire, then we should have a fund where we can buy fire equipment, and also with a preparedness, we will be able to attack immediately and respond immediately so that we save lives. Madam Speaker, I know a river NCU, I know it's in Honorable Mliungi's place. It killed so many people some times back, and if we could also come up with such rivers which are disaster, because for it to kill people, so many people, although it's being constructed, if there was this authority, it could have come up with some mitigation issues so that the bridge is constructed. But it is not, the project has been started and it's not over. I also have an accident-prone area in my constituency where after every few days people are killed. The road has a problem. So if there are deaths which are caused in this road between Kombo, Kabati and Katutu, if this authority, we should also look at such things why is this happening every time, and then come up with mitigation measures, and with the funds they'll be able to come up with a solution for all these disasters. So with that, Madam Speaker, I support the bill and say that when it becomes an act, then we'll be able to save lives. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to support this bill. Honorable Speaker, as was well said by the Honorable Dr. Kapung when he moved this bill on my behalf, and allow me, Honorable Speaker, to take this opportunity to thank him for not just moving this bill on my behalf, but also having led his committee in consideration of this bill. And Honorable Speaker, going through the committee's report, I do agree with a number of their proposals, Honorable Speaker. And it's also important, Honorable Speaker, to know that this is a bill that I did in the last Parliament and is among the bills that lapsed, which we sought to revive in this 13th Parliament. And the need, Honorable Speaker, emanated from the desire to have a proper legal framework that would coordinate disaster risk management in the country, because we lacked that, Honorable Speaker, and we still lack. Honorable Speaker, I remember the time I came up with this bill was immediately after the Garissa University terrorist attack. And it was sad, Honorable Speaker, that at that time, and I would believe it's still the case today, in the absence of having a coordinated way in which we manage our disasters and management of risks that would contribute to more disasters. At that time, Honorable Speaker, I remember when the terrorists hit Garissa University, and so many students were shot, some killed, some injured, and you can imagine the anguish that parents had. Garissa at the time was around summer times in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, but temperatures soaring to highs of close to 40 degrees Celsius. And I had an engagement, Honorable Speaker, with the medical officer who was serving in the region at that time and coordinating that disaster from Garissa. And as sad as it was, Honorable Speaker, those who unfortunately lost their lives, upon their bodies being taken to the morgue at the Garissa District Hospital, as it were then, the morgue could not handle the number of bodies that were being taken there. And bodies by that evening had started decomposing. By the time the government was able to mobilize resources from Nairobi to fly to Garissa, to even get fingerprints from the bodies that were already decomposing, it was not even possible. And I was told by those who are in the medical profession, when bodies stay under such temperatures, they get disfigured. And therefore, even fingerprints were disfigured. And that's why you realize it took a long time for families who are already notified that they have lost their loved young ones at the university, but they could not be able to identify what body belonged to who. And imagine the anguish parents had. Some, I remember, accommodated at Chiromo University, Chiromo campus of the University of Nairobi, and there were harrowing stories of parents being subjected to walk from Chiromo all the way to Nyayo Stadium every morning, going to wait for buses at the Nyayo Stadium to see if they would be able to identify those who are coming in buses from Garissa, be able to get information as to whether they have lost their loved ones. And eventually, Honorable Speaker, I remember I engaged with one parent who had traveled all the way from West Pokot, sold his 3 goats to get fare to come to Nairobi. And he exhausted the money that he had sold his 3 goats through trying to get accommodation in Nairobi, and had to walk every day when they were eventually hosted by the University of Nairobi in Chiromo. He had to walk every day for almost a week and a half before he finally identified his deceased child from Garissa University. And that motivated me, Honorable Speaker, to ask myself, what is it that we can do to ensure that if such a disaster ever struck again, there is a coordinated way in which we can handle such a disaster or others, Honorable Speaker. And from members' contributions, you can hear the anguish even ourselves as members of parliament have to go through every now and then, with simple disasters like the blowing off of roofs of our primary schools by strong winds, or floods, when floods ravage our constituencies, be it in Budalangi or somewhere in eastern Kenya. Kenyans are left suffering because there isn't a coordinated way through which government, both at the national level and at the county level, coordinates to handle disasters, Honorable Speaker. And therefore we sought to have this bill, Honorable Speaker, to address some of these challenges, to ensure that we not only provide that legal framework for disaster risk management, but also to enhance the effectiveness and a coordinated disaster preparedness, how we prevent disasters, how we respond, mitigation and recovery from disasters, Honorable Speaker, because it is one thing to wait for disasters to happen, Honorable Speaker. We all know that for many years Budalangi constituency has been ravaged by floods, or when River Nyando and River Nzoia break their banks, people will suffer. And you remember the famous lady of Serikali Saidia during the regime of President Mwai Kibaki. And that lady brought to the fore the suffering of the people of Budalangi from floods. And I remember government at that time moved from those calls to establish dikes and other mitigation measures, but we do not have to wait for Kenyans to cry out. We should be proactive. We should move ahead of time to see how we can not only prevent and mitigate disaster, but also ensure that Kenyans are able to recover quickly post-disasters, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, this bill seeks to address some of those issues and also to reduce disaster risks and vulnerabilities at the national and also at the county levels of government. Honorable Speaker, members are aware that every county government and even the national government has funds that are usually set aside for unforeseen emergencies. And these contingency funds, Honorable Speaker, are never utilized for the right purposes, and you find that a disaster hits a county and the county government of that particular county has no resources. Yet in their budgets, they had budgeted for a contingency fund for such eventualities and emergencies. By the time the disaster hits them, they are ill prepared and are always calling on the national government to come to their rescue. And therefore we want to have a coordinated process so that we know how do we establish that each of our county governments are budgeting and providing funds for disaster mitigation and disaster management. How do we also ensure, as members of parliament who are in charge of budget making, that the contingency monies that are set aside to deal with disaster management are indeed appropriated for that particular purpose, Honorable Speaker, and also coordinate so that when it is a county level disaster or a disaster that is restricted within a particular county, the county can first utilize their resources before they go out to look for help. Honorable Speaker, also we have measures to know through a disaster management authority, Honorable Speaker, how can we even coordinate the mobilization of resources? Honorable Speaker, look at the COVID pandemic. We had, as a country, we had to set up an ad hoc committee, look for people in the private sector, in the corporate world, a few public officers, to form an ad hoc committee to mobilize resources to even be able to look for gloves and masks that were required to prevent loss of life, Honorable Speaker, and further spread of that disaster of COVID-19. Honorable Speaker, all these things have served to remind us as a country that we are always ill-prepared and we are caught flat-footed when disasters strike. And it is high time that we prepare in a way that we'll be able to enhance our own resilience to the impacts of disasters and other risks, and also issues that touch on climate change. Honorable Speaker, we are now in the discussions of climate change, and Honorable Speaker, how we mitigate issues to do with climate change. With the changing climate, Honorable Speaker, floods, hurricanes, Honorable Speaker, will become very common things. Honorable Speaker, if we don't take deliberate measures for reforestation, soil erosion, landslides will be so common, Honorable Speaker, and unless we have a system where there is somebody checking on what we are doing, both at the national level, at the county and local levels, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that even as we deal with climate change mitigation measures, we're also looking at the effects of that, the changes in our climate in matters touching on floods, as I said, soil erosion, washing away all the good soils and the nutrients that our crops need, Honorable Speaker, exposing us to other disasters such as hunger and droughts, Honorable Speaker. Landslides in those areas where they are prone to landslides, like in Murang'a County and other areas where Elgeyo Marakwet, Honorable Speaker, and West Pokot. You remember the disaster that struck us about 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember then, Honorable Speaker, when that disaster struck in West Pokot, even the minister who was in charge of the interior, the minister who was in charge of the small disaster unit that is hosted by the Ministry of Interior. I can't remember the name of that small unit because there's a small unit within the Ministry of Interior that deals with disasters. The minister in charge then, the Honorable former CS Fred Matiang'i, told the country unashamedly, Honorable Speaker, that he could not access the disaster area because of the weather at that time, flying a military helicopter. But the then Deputy President, with a small civilian helicopter, was able to access that place, Honorable Speaker. And that also speaks to the disdain and contempt that some of our public officers had with Kenyan people, that we do not relate to the suffering of the people when disasters strike. It took the then Deputy President, who is now serving as our President, flying a private chopper and even mobilizing private resources from Kenyans to be able to help the people of West Pokot then. And I was praying the member of parliament from that area was here, Honorable Speaker, because we do not know when such other disasters will strike. But we do not want to find ourselves in a situation where our current Minister for Interior will claim that because of weather, when he has choppers that have navigation equipment, he could not access a certain place because there is no proper framework as to how you respond to such disasters. And we want to find ourselves well prepared, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I do agree with the committee's report that indeed, on hindsight, there are certain changes that we can make to this bill, and I agree with them on the deletion of some of the clauses, like clause 5, 6, and 7, that touch on the establishment of an intergovernmental council that will comprise 10 members. And I want to thank the committee and the chair, Honorable Chakapunga, and say I do agree with them, and we will support the amendments that they have proposed during committee of the whole. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to support, as I also thank the many members who have spoken in support of this bill. Honorable Speaker, finally, because we are at a time and when the establishment of authorities and semi-autonomous sagas in government is a matter that is at the fore of our national conversations today, courtesy of the huge burden that we have bestowed on the exchequer on account of the management and running of state-owned enterprises. I want to state, Honorable Speaker, we must, during the committee of the whole, ensure that the National Disaster Management Authority will or should be a very lean authority that is more of a coordinating role, but not one that creates more bureaucracies to get money from the exchequer. It should be a very lean body that ensures that most of the money that will be appropriated towards disaster management goes towards the work of mitigation of disasters, management of disasters and recovery post-disasters, Honorable Speaker, but not into the bureaucracies of running state-owned enterprises or semi-autonomous government agencies. Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to support.
The Majority Leader, this is a very important bill. You are always very educative, and I'm happy the bill is coming from you. But I wanted to pick your mind for purposes of this general debate. Before you sit, I know you will have your opportunity to reply. I don't know whether you have the bill.
Yes.
Just something to signify to the committee that will be dealing with this thing with your approval. Look at clause 33. The other one can be given to the Majority Leader, so that as we debate, members are informed in terms of the areas we could, tighten. You see, it says that this authority has first to classify a disaster as either a county disaster or a disaster falling within the remit of national government before any action or intervention can take place. Assume it was something like that terrorist attack, and this classification is not timed. Even the terrorist attack we had at the embassy of the United States here. How do you see this, working? And at this up clause, you're saying until a disaster is classified by the authority, it shall be deemed to be a county disaster.
It's true, Honorable Speaker, that whenever a disaster occurs or threatens, I don't know how it will threaten, to occur, the authority shall determine whether the event is a disaster under this act, and if so, immediately assess the magnitude and severity or potential magnitude and severity of the disaster, then classify the disaster as a county disaster or national disaster, and see record the prescribed. Honorable Speaker, I think these are some of the issues, Honorable Speaker, on hindsight. I say we, together with the committee, will be looking at possible amendments so that it is clear that the authority is to determine, when a disaster occurs or when it threatens to occur, for instance, when it is raining and trees are falling off the hilly parts of Muranga or Elgeyo Marakwet or West Pokot, and there is a threat that there is likely to be a landslide. Then the authority, we cannot wait for the authority to determine whether that disaster will be localized in that area or whether national government should intervene, because it's quite clear that a disaster is likely to occur or one has already occurred. They should be able to move with speed and be able to determine the magnitude. And I think we'll do some cleanup in this particular section to make it clear. So that, again, we are not bogged down, as I was saying earlier, by bureaucracies also that we also create in law.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think in that endeavor, the committee should also look at even the definition of disaster is too broad. Anything that causes death, injury, or disease, damages property, infrastructure, or environment, significant disruption of life to a community is a disaster. You may end up in a situation where everything is a disaster waiting for national government, intervention. And as we do that, we also look at the fourth schedule in terms of the kind of disaster the counties can give them, so that we delineate them. The Honorable Dr. James Nikang, the MP for Seme. Honorable Mili, what is out of order?
Thank you, Chair, for giving me that opportunity. Chair, I just wanted to inform the Chair, based on actually what you've said, that if you look at the definition of disaster, there is also the word localized, so that when the committee is considering that amendment, they also must remove the issue of the word localized. And they also need to look at it in tandem with the Victim Protection Act that looks at victimization that have to do with the criminalization in nature, including terrorism.
The Honorable Millie Odhiambo, do you want to contribute?
Yes, I could.
The Speaker has powers under Standing Order number 1 to reverse, so that you go before Honorable Dr. Mikal, because I've been with you long enough in Parliament, Honorable Millie Odhiambo, to know when you want to contribute and when you want to wait. Do you want to contribute?
Chair, I don't mind waiting. It's just that I thought because you are raising it at that time. Okay, so I don't mind waiting because it's also my senior.
So wait and make those presentations. The Honorable Dr. Mikal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important bill, and I rise to support it. And Mr. Speaker, the objective of this is to actually get a legal framework for coordination. And Mr. Speaker, emergencies on the disasters normally have an emergency element. So most disasters will have an emergency element. And if there's an emergency element, there is need for preparedness, and these are things that actually have to be done before. And then you have to get government systems that work through structures. So I support this bill because if you have to have an emergency response, you need to have pre-planned, and you need to work through government structures that sometimes are actually obstructive. Then you need a legal framework for coordination. And when we talk of coordination, Mr. Speaker, when we talk of disasters and emergencies, it is not often one department of government that is involved. It will actually involve many. It will involve security. It may involve the transport system. It will involve the health system. And all these will be various departments that are doing various things. But in a disaster, they have to come together to deliver. So I support that this bill tries to address that. It is even more important for us that we are working in a devolved system, where apart from just having departments, you also have 2 levels of government, and therefore you have to say who is going to manage a disaster. And because of the emergency nature, there is sometimes no time for that decision to be done. Therefore, getting structures is important, and that, Mr. Speaker, is why I actually support this. It gives us those structures. And if you're dealing with risk, then it's not only taking action, but actually looking at prevention. Every disaster, we must find out why it happened, is it likely to happen again, and put in place preventive measures. This bill actually talks of classification of risk, and I think you have raised the issue of clause 33. But we should look at it more of classifying the risk than waiting to classify the disaster itself, because by that time it is extremely late, and therefore we are talking of risk management. So we must then classify the risk. If we have a history, and it also talks about information, we have an information, we have a risk. What we talk of Budalangi, we talk of Nyando. When the rains are coming, we know that these areas are likely to have that. And therefore, what risk do you put in place? And even what classification? And if you have a classification, Mr. Speaker, then you can use algorithms. You can't wait until it happens, then now say, okay, this one is there. You say, if this one happens, this is what needs to be done. That is how you actually manage emergencies. You don't wait. You have algorithms, and with those algorithms, you also put up SOPs, how you respond, yeah, so that you know with this is what you do, and this is what should be done. And then if you have structures, that also will tell you who should do it. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support the Intergovernmental Council of Disaster Risk Management. You must really look at the word risk more than just disaster. If we start thinking of what they will act when the disaster has occurred, we're missing the point. So it is the risk, then the risk then is between the council, the intergovernmental. But Mr. Speaker, in our devolved system, we have had a problem. We have a body called the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Committee. You are a lawyer. But you know that we also created something called the Secretariat of the Council of Governors. Those two things, actually one is illegal and the other one isn't working. So even if we form these intergovernmental structures, we must be willing to actually get those structures to work. Otherwise, there will be points of argument. We then create an authority, and what I like about this authority, when you have a risk, if you have assessed your risk, then it must come in pre-planning, and if you are going to have pre-planning, you must have a budget. The worst thing is when you wait until you have a disaster, and then now you are starting to look. The majority was saying sometimes the government is not prepared, and therefore philanthropists take advantage. In fact, when you have a disaster, you then have to need to control philanthropies, because quite often they can actually derail the issues we have. In 2007, when we had the IDPs, we had to go in and control the philanthropies that were coming within the structures that are put in place. If you work here, this is what you do. You come with your food, this is what you do. We come with your medicines, this is where you put it. Otherwise, they seem to take over. So I like the council that are put in place. I like the authority, but the authority I like because they're pre-planning and the budgeting, so that there's a framework. Even those who are giving you funds, sometimes it is better for them to just give you funds and work through a structure than actually to have one person coming with a load of food, the other come with a load of medicine. Nobody has checked whether these medicines are registered in the country. Nobody knows whether the food is expired, and now people are just running around helter-skelter. So that those authorities will do that. Then we have the county disaster risk management committees. Again, if we can have all these structures, but if we don't have the standard operating procedures which are within these committees and risks that have been identified and set so that you do this and this, these committees will not work. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and we look at it and look at areas where you really need to look at risk rather than wait for disasters to take place and then try to classify them and manage them. You should be prepared. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Martin Owino, MP from Dewa. Honorable Mulu indicated she is not in a hurry.
And Speaker, I heard her very well.
You will speak after Honorable Martin Owino.
I heard her very clearly, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Many has been said about this bill, and I just want to add my voice to it. Disaster management is a process, really. It's a process that starts with prevention, which I want to emphasize, that we really need to think of preventing what occurs so that we are not caught unawares. Especially the floods, the fires, some of these things are time bomb, and we know. Prevention should also, which I didn't see elaborated here, Speaker, we should have a very elaborated research system to know what kind of disasters we have in our country and when they strike. For example, in health rooms, you may find the seasons and the flus, and that should be well noted so that we prepare, we give flu shots before it becomes epidemic. Also, there's an element of preparedness. When it strikes, then what do we do as a people or as a system we are trying to put in place? Preparedness is one way of solving a problem. If you're not prepared, the way our counties are not, most of the time you find that
CDF is called upon. School has burned down or bridge has broken, but we can hardly cope with those. But if we have this structure where we have a national or federal government supporting the systems on the ground, then we can easily manage disasters. Mr. Speaker, there's an element of response. When it happens, sometimes it needs rapid response. And sometimes what you just mentioned caught me. When the disaster is classified as county, and it is more than a county, then what do? That will cause a delay, and when you delay in response, then you have a loss of lives and even more disabilities. So I think I do support what Mikhail says. We rather classify risks more than classifying the disaster, because there's no time for classification when disaster strikes anyway. The other element which I want to add on to this, which should be magnified, is when you have responded, there will be loss of lives, unfortunately, and also there will be disabilities. How do you manage aftermath? That is always left out. For example, if properties are stricken, you may have people homeless. Do you have shelters where they can go? Those should be factored in, and the committees should consider about that. So the nature, the extent, and the severity and occurrences, all these packed together in a research portfolio should inform us as a country, so that when disaster is about to or is almost, we can know and proactively respond to it. But I think this is a good bill, and I thank the authors. I don't want to say much because I know Millie is almost on half it, and I have exhausted my point. So I yield my time to you, to Millie, if that exists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You've also taken over the role of the Speaker. I can assure you the Honorable Millie Grace Odhiambo, MP for Suba North, should have the mic to make her contributions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to support this bill and thank the committee for bringing it, or the leader of majority. And I also want to indicate at the onset that it's a good thing that now we are having a legislative framework on disaster risk management. Indeed, I'm actually glad that it's clarified, because I remember very clearly we had this bill in the last parliament, but I do notice that it had lapsed. Mr. Speaker, because most people have spoken a lot to the issue of disaster risk management, I just wanted to talk about some of the issues that I've seen that are thrown in the bill. One of them, which I was actually intervening because I didn't know that I would have the time, is on the issue of definition of disaster, that because they have included the word local, it actually limits, because then a disaster can happen that is beyond local. But when you use the word local, it means it limits how we respond when you actually make disaster a local affair. And we have seen from experience, and even from what the majority leader had given, for example, of COVID. Do you classify COVID as a local issue, or is it a national issue? Then, Mr. Speaker, one of the other issues that I've actually picked that is of concern for me also is the definition of disaster risk management. And I'm encouraging the committee, even though I've proposed amendments already, that they should expand it to include having in place a permanent structure of disaster risk management at the county and national level, identifying and mapping disaster-prone or vulnerable areas, situations, or people as part of management, because we already know as a country which areas are very prone to flooding, for instance, but we always operate like it's a shock when it happens. And then issuing early warning of imminent disaster. Mr. Speaker, if you go even to BBC and other areas now, you actually see alerts that are issued all the time. And even if you look at today's I think media, I don't know if it was Nation or what, that I was reading, the US is already giving an alert on a possible terrorist attack in Somalia. That is actually a preparation for disaster. Why don't we have things like that? and then relocating populations in case of imminent disasters, and using technology to better management disaster. Mr. Speaker, one time when we were in Indonesia with the Committee of Budget, I woke up in the night, I was sleeping, and I actually thought I'd overslept and forgotten to switch off my TV. And Mr. Speaker, after a while I actually discovered that it was an automated system coming through the TV that was warning us that there has just been an earthquake of this magnitude, and we should go out and we should do XYZ, you know, for a focal point. And Mr. Speaker, by the time I was walking down, I think God gave me an amazing ability to sleep. I met people walking up. I had slept through the earthquake. And when I reached, I found people that were in centralized places. Should we have an earthquake in Kenya, I can tell you it will be shocking how we'd react, because we don't have those centralized places. In Indonesia, everybody knows there's an earthquake, every hotel has a centralized area. We should also have those automated systems even in our hotels, not just for earthquakes, but for other things. I'd want to say, for instance, my own county, Homa Bay, is an earthquake-prone area, but we have such things. I know Honorable Gladys will be doing something about it. She's just done her first year. But in terms of the law, those are the things that we need to be putting. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that is of concern to me is the issue of the definition again of emergency preparedness. And I'm encouraging the committee that what we need to add as part of emergency preparedness is having a policy in place for both the national and the county government, but also having in place a monitoring system for both the county and national government, having in place an early warning system, a continuous public education and awareness to the public on disaster risk response, including emergency numbers and centers, and having in place facilities and equipment for effective and quick response in case of disasters, including fire trucks, land, water, and air ambulatory services. Mr. Speaker, right now, if we were to have a disaster in Fangano Island, we'd actually have a challenge because we don't have a boat ambulatory system. I know we've raised it with our governor and she said she will bring it, but I'm not just saying it in relation to Homa Bay County. What about other areas that are, covered by water? If there's an emergency or a disaster, how do you respond quickly? And because now the systems that we have there are mainly private. And even for us to mobilize them, you might find the ferry is in Kisumu or wherever, and they are slow. If you are dealing with disasters, you need quick response. So for me, those are some of the issues that I'd want. Again, in clause 4, one of the guiding principles should be protecting vulnerable groups, including women, children, persons with disabilities, and the elderly in cases of disasters. Because we have not mentioned them specifically, but disaster affects different groups differently. When you have women and children, when you have disasters, women will be prone to sexual abuse and all other kind of issues. How do we respond to women in disasters like that, where they no longer have any habitation or whatever? What about menstrual and gene and things like that when you have disasters? And then I'm also suggesting that we need to have the Minister for Gender because of that issue in the Management Authority. I know we are also trying to make it smaller, but even as we make it smaller, we need to have the Minister for Gender, who mercifully a lot of times also doubles up as the one in charge of the young person. But I know that now it's not the same, but it would be important. And then, Chair, on the issue of governance, it's an issue that I've been speaking to a lot on this floor, but I will re-emphasize it. Chair, we have this tendency that we find one Kenyan in two boards, or in serving a government office, but also in a board. When there are many Kenyans who don't have anything, why don't they also serve in those boards? Or we have one person that have exceptional intellectual capacities. Those are things that we also must address. We must also, in terms of governance, one of the other issues that we must also look at is the way we phrase the powers that we give the chair of the board. And one of the powers that we need to give the board is not to dismiss somebody for absenting themselves, but without justification. Chair, one of the other things that I'd want to say is also that we need to ensure that we take a zebra approach when we are appointing the boards or the officers to any of the bodies. And so that if you have a male chair, you should have a female vice and vice versa. Mr. Speaker, I've written a few of the issues. I'm not going to mention all of them, but I just want to complete by saying one of the things that I've told you before. I've sponsored the Victim Protection Act. And one of the clauses in the Victim Protection Act is the issue of victimization, mass victimization arising from a crime. So for instance, the issue of terrorism. And one of the things it does, it says that, this is actually born of the fact that when we have seen all the times that we have seen terrorist attacks, how have we responded as a country? Every single person has walked in there to respond, not the officers. Secondly, in their response, we don't preserve the evidence. We don't also look at the victim. We don't see like what you see if you actually look at a lot of the programs in the US or other areas, that they will preserve the dress that the person is wearing for purposes of identification or any other identifying features. I was very shocked one time when I went to Kenyatta National Hospital, and I saw recently that they wanted to dispose of bodies. And they were telling people to just come and dispose of bodies. And I said, and I asked them, do you keep in such cases of disposals any evidence that when somebody one time wants to identify a person who is lost, they can do that? And they said, no, they don't have. I was actually shocked. So that is why, for instance, one of the people who used to be an ODM member called Matunga, who disappeared from Gwasi, to date can't be traced because there is no DNA evidence. This applies to mass victimization as well. So, Mr. Speaker, I've proposed several amendments to this bill. It is a good bill. It is a timely bill. I encourage the majority speaker to be more futuristic and stop looking backwards and always blaming other people, including Honorable Matiang'i, because the country has moved on. With those few remarks, I support.
Thank you, Honorable Willie Odhiambo. Always very informative. The Honorable Dr. Suzanne Kiamba, the MP for Makueni.
Well, I think it is in order to have a disaster management authority, I wish to raise some few concerns. And one of the concerns I wish to raise is the fact that in this country we are working very hard to create very many structures. We've made so many structures that ends up having no budget or money to do what we wish them to do. I want to give an example when we come to issues of water and issues water. You will find it at Mahadi, you will find the Tana, you will find quite a number of Walma, and you will find like around 3 or so structures. But when you look at the budget to deliver what is supposed to be delivered, Honorable Speaker, we tend to find it quite wanting. So I'm of the opinion, like we have a ministry under which disaster risk management is there, is under that particular ministry. And you realize that the institutional capacity within the ministry is very weak. My concern is, why should we continue making more structures while we have institutionalized structures that don't have capacity? The moment we create a structure, Honorable Speaker, we attract a budget. We are living at times in this country when money is very scarce. So when I sit down and listen to this bill, I'm seeing a new budget coming up. And I'm wondering, Honorable Speaker, when we continue creating these many budgets of overheads, when will we have money for the outcomes which we want to deliver in this particular country? I also find it very interesting, Honorable Speaker, when we look at the fact that disaster is something that happens once in a while, not every day. But the moment you create an authority, you have to have a budget that has to be taken care every month. In my view, disaster should be mainstreamed because we have health-related disasters, we have water-related disasters, we have food security-related disasters. In my view, an authority is too much an overhead. We need every department to mainstream the risk management and disaster. And by that way, we reduce the cost of running these disasters right from the national level up to the county level. Otherwise, we'll have so many structures and no money to deliver the kind of outcomes we want to our own people. So, Honorable Speaker, of course you can see I really do not agree with this motion of having more structures. As a Kenyan representative, I'm interested in delivering outcomes to our people. Even look at even our own leadership structure. A Kenyan at the grassroots is represented by a president, a deputy president, a senator, a woman rep, a governor, a member of parliament, an MCA. I've not mentioned the chief and his assistant. What reaches that voter at the ground under all that particular process? I'm feeling even when we go to service delivery, we are going still to the same, let me not call it mess, to the same kind of thinking where we create so much structure that when it comes to service delivery, we spend most of the income without bringing the change we want. Honorable Speaker, I am opposing this motion because in my view, I think risk management is not something that happens every day. And should not have somebody sitting 365 days to wait when disaster comes. But people in every sector, people in every ministry, we should strengthen the disaster component. And by so doing, we can deliver seamless outcomes to our people when disaster emerges. Otherwise, Honorable Speaker, I stand to oppose that creation of a structure. I wish it could be integrated in already existing structures that we have and we deliver the service. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Dr. Suzanne Kiamba is saying when Parliament is struck now, you should not have some authority sitting somewhere still deciding whether there should be response. We should build in disaster response within systems so that there is no need for authority. I hear her to be saying that. And Honorable Martin Owino, of course, says that we should classify disaster, those ones which the counties need to respond to, those ones the national government, instead of waiting for a disaster to sit down and then plan. Everybody would be dead by then. The mover should now reply. Honorable Dr. Undo, I see you, but I remember I gave you opportunity to address the nation on this particular one. Yes, sir. So mover.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to, on behalf of the Leader of Majority, the Honorable Kimani Chungwa, the member for Kikuyu, I want to take this opportunity to reply. Now, Honorable Speaker, first of all, I want to thank all the honorable members who got an opportunity to contribute. And I want to, Honorable Speaker, say that we have taken their concerns, we have taken their contributions, and we are going to critically look at them and see how we are going to incorporate what honorable members have raised while debating this bill in the next stage. So, Honorable Speaker, I also want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Regional Development Committee for doing a good job. But, Honorable Speaker, equally I want to say that, of course, wherever they are, they have also seen the concerns of honorable members, having gone through the report, having gone through the bill, and they have also made proposals. Honorable Speaker, I think I have seen members talk about the definitions that we need to recheck. I've also heard that from you, the Honorable Speaker, we have to relook at clause 33. And many other proposals that members have given. As a committee, we also proposed amendments
to this bill, which of course we're going to bring in the in the next stage of this bill. So, Honorable Speaker, together with what Honorable members have proposed, we are going to look at it again, and then come back here and we agree as a House on how we are going to move forward. However, Honorable Speaker, you have seen that the majority of members have supported this bill. And from their contributions, this bill would not have come at a better time than now. So I want to sincerely commend them and thank them for their support. And of course, whatever they have again raised as a way of we need to relook at, I think is welcomed. Now, Honorable Speaker, disasters have been managed from various quarters in this country. Like, for example, when we had the landslides in the West Pokot the other time, that was my constituency, Sigor, part of Pokot South, and some other regions of this country. Responding was by the Kenya Defense Forces, mainly. And in certain instances, it was even very difficult for agencies and even well-wishers to access the areas that had landslides. So it was really very, very difficult. And I think now, by coming out with this bill, which, Honorable Speaker, now seems to provide a legal framework so that we have coordination of disaster risk management, because as it is now, it is done through the KDF. There is a disaster operations center at the Ministry of Interior. We have agencies like the Red Cross and others. So it is important that we have a framework, a legal framework, so that all these actors involved in disaster risk management and disaster risk management get coordinated and even take stock of even the actors in disaster risk management. So we have even proposed in this bill that we are going to have a register of all the actors and players who are going to do something about disaster. Honorable Speaker, the fourth schedule to the Constitution provides that disaster management is a shared function between the two levels of government in this country. That is the national government and the county government. That is why, Honorable Speaker, we have here proposed a National Disaster Risk Management Authority, and at the county we have a county disaster committee that will be headed by somebody who will be competitively recruited. And in that way, I think we are going to have a situation where the two levels of government coordinate and work together to address cases of disaster. Honorable Speaker, you know, the people in the counties are Kenyans. So we don't have people of the national government and people of county government. So whenever a disaster occurs, it affects Kenyans. And if this bill is going to help in terms of reaction time between the time a disaster occurs and the time it is being addressed, then I think this is good. Now, Honorable Speaker, I know that the various issues that have been put forward will be taken into consideration. Now, Honorable Speaker, when this bill will be enacted into law, the enactment of this bill, Honorable Speaker, will lead to efficient and effective management of disasters across the country. During contribution here, that it may be too bureaucratic between the time a disaster occurs and the time it is being classified. But I want to say that probably that time, the reaction time between when a disaster occurs and when it is being addressed, it can be a very short time, because we have also classified disasters into a county disaster,
and maybe a national disaster. Where a disaster affects more than one county, we can call it a national disaster. And when it is affecting one county, then it can be a county disaster. But in instances where, even when it is affecting one county, and the county is unable to manage it, then again, we call it a national disaster. So, Honorable Speaker, we have also said that the President can declare a state of disaster. So, and I think when the President also comes in, and when the magnitude of a disaster gets to certain levels, then the President can declare a state of national disaster. So I want to say, Honorable Speaker, with all the inputs by honorable members and what we have also proposed as a committee for amendments, I think this bill will go a long way to ensuring that whenever disasters strike, or whenever we have instances or cases of disaster, then I think there is a coordinated way of responding to disasters in this country, and probably even in a timely manner. So, Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I sincerely thank honorable members who contributed, and I therefore beg to reply. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. Mover, for the convenience of the House, the question on second reading of this bill will be put the next time it will be scheduled for consideration by the House Business Committee. The Honorable, next order.
Order number 13, motion, reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County.
Mover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House adopts the second report of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee on its examination of audited financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for five constituencies in Vihiga for the financial years 2013-2014, 2014-2015, and 2015-2016, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 14th February 2024. Honorable Speaker, the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee is a select committee established pursuant to the National Assembly Standing Orders 205B, and is responsible for the examination of the reports of Auditor General on the accounts of, among others, the National Government Constituencies Development Fund and the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. Honorable Speaker, the National Government Constituency Development Fund has had significant impacts on our communities and on individuals' lives since its establishment in 2003. Honorable members can attest that the fund has helped transform our communities through the development and maintenance of infrastructure projects, especially in schools and other educational facilities, as well as provision of bursaries to needy students. These CDA-funded projects have stimulated economic activity in the constituencies by providing employment opportunities during construction and enhancing local infrastructure that supports businesses, leading to increased economic growth and prosperity. Improved access to education, on the other hand, has translated to communities being more empowered and leading better lives. It is indeed an economic stimulus program which should be cascaded to other development projects. Honorable Speaker, one important aspect of the NGCDA projects has been the participatory nature of the projects that it funds. The NGCDA often involves community participation in project selection, implementation, and monitoring. This has empowered communities to take charge of their development priorities and foster a sense of ownership over the projects, leading to sustainable development outcomes, unlike other development projects. Honorable Speaker, oversight over national revenue and expenditure is amongst the roles of the National Assembly as stipulated under Section 95(4)(c) of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Further, Article 226 of the Constitution provides that an Act of Parliament shall provide for the designation of an accounting officer in every public entity at the national level who is accountable to the National Assembly for its financial management. In addition, Article 229(8) mandates this House to debate and take appropriate action on audit reports from the Auditor General. Further, Section 68(1) of the Public Finance Management Act 2012 provides in the earlier that an accounting officer of the national government entity, Parliamentary Service Commission, and the judiciary shall be accountable to the National Assembly to ensure that the resources of the respective entity for which he or she is accountable, accounting officer, are used in a way that is lawful and authorized and effective, efficient, economical, and transparent. In addition, Section 12(3) of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Act, number 30 of 2015, provides that the fund account manager shall hold the authority to incur expenditure of the funds at the constituency. The fund account managers were therefore invited to respond to concerns raised by the committee in their capacity as AIE orders. Honorable Speaker, it is in line with these constitutional and legal provisions that the committee invited the fund account managers, both current and former, as accounting officers of the NGCDF to respond to audit queries raised by the Auditor General during their tenure. The committee also invited the board of NGCDF to respond to policy issues which were also subjected to audit queries. Information received formed the basis of, for the various recommendations outlined in this report, which are geared towards effective management of the fund. Honorable Speaker, the committee, while examining the audited accounts for Vihiga, Sambatia, Amisi, Emuhaya, and the Luanda constituencies in Vihiga County, the committee observed that in the financial year 2013-2014, all the constituencies examined had audit issues raised following the High Court of Kenya ruling on petition number 71 of 2013, which held that Constituency Development Fund 2013, establishing the Constituency Development Fund since an enactment of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 was unconstitutional. The committee further observed that the issue was overtaken by events as it was addressed through the passing of the NGCDF Act 2015 and its regulations 2016, which aligned the fund functions to national government functions. The functions were further aligned by the enactment of the NGCDF Act 2023, recently passed by this Honorable House. Honorable Speaker, the committee also observed in all the constituencies, the Auditor General had raised issues on under expenditure or non-implementation of projects due to late receipt of funds in the constituencies. The committee observed that this was beyond the capacity of the fund account managers and recommended that the National Treasury should ensure timely and adequate disbursement of funds to the National Government Constituencies and Development Fund Board for immediate release to the constituencies. Honorable Speaker, the committee also observed that in all the constituencies examined, documents were filed late for verification during the audit period and recommended that the accounting officers should ensure that fund account managers comply with the provisions of Section 62(1)(b) and (c) of the Public Audit Act, number 34 of 2015, which provides that a person shall not, without justification, fail to provide information required under this Act, and without justification fail to provide information within reasonable time that is required under this Act. Honorable Speaker, the committee also made some general observations and recommendations on issues which cut across 5 constituencies in Vihiga County as follows. Firstly, Honorable Speaker, in the regard to reallocation and use of emergency funds, the committee observed that some of the projects funded using emergency funds did not meet the threshold of the Section 6(2) and Section 8 of the NG-CNDF Act 2015. The committee recommended that the NG-CNDF Constituency Development Fund Board should ensure that the fund account managers comply with the provisions of Section C262 and Section 8 of the National Government Constituency Development Fund Act 2015, which provides that Section 6(2), once funds are allocated for a particular project, they shall remain allocated for that project and may only be reallocated for any other purpose during the financial year with the approval of the board. And number 2, Section 8(1), a portion of the fund equivalent to 5%, hereinafter referred to as emergency reserve, shall remain unallocated and shall be available for emergencies that may occur within the constituency. The constituency committee shall determine the allocation of the emergency reserve in accordance with the Act. And number 3, emergency shall be construed to mean an urgent and foreseen need for expenditure for which it is in the opinion of the committee that it cannot be delayed until the next financial year without harming the public interest of the constituents. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, in respect of pending ongoing projects, the committee observed that the critical cause of pending ongoing projects being common in the constituencies was partial allocation of funds for projects. The committee therefore recommends that the NG-CNDA board should, with immediate effect, discourage the partial allocation of funds to projects and ensure that projects are completed at most within 2 financial years. Further, NG-CNDF committee should ensure proper costing of the projects is done through consultation with the relevant government and departments to ensure realistic cost estimates. And the NG-CNDA board should come up with a realistic policy framework of costing projects for each constituency by the end of the first quarter of the financial year 2023-24, which is informed by the cost of materials, cost of transportation, taxes, inflation index, and the topography of each constituency. Thirdly, Honorable Speaker, the committee observed that there was poor coordination between the Office of the Auditor General and the fund account managers, particularly regarding to the timely response to audit queries. The committee further observed that there is need for NG-CNDA board to inform fund account managers across the country to respond to audit queries promptly. The committee, the NG-CNDA board, the committee recommended the NG-CNDA board issues an administrative circular directing fund account managers to comply with the provisions of the Constitution 2010, the Public Audit Act number 34, 2015, the Public Finance Management Act number 18 of 2012, and Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act number 33 of 2015. 3, the board to ensure the fund account managers maintain the original project management files at the CNDF office, while the duplicates are maintained at the project committees at the project sites to ensure that documents are available at the time of audit. 3, the board should ensure constituency committees employ qualified accountants for the constituency offices beginning 23-24 within the 6% administrative allocation to the board. This will strengthen the maintenance of books of accounts and preparation of financial statements. Fourthly and lastly, Honorable Speaker, on the accuracy of financial statements, the committee observed that fund account managers experience challenges in adopting to International Public Sector Accounting Standards (IPSAS) reporting framework in preparation of financial statements. The standards were introduced in 2013-14 financial year in the public sector, and the failure to comply with the standards in subsequent years occasioned qualification of financial statements. The committee also established that Public Sector Accounting Standards Board reviews the IPSAS standards periodically to take into account emerging issues and conform to best accounting practices. Some fund account managers experience challenges in application of these standards while preparing financial statements as envisaged in the audit queries. The committee recommends that 1, fund account managers comply with the IPSAS framework in preparation of financial statements. 2, the board in consultation with the Public Accounting Standards Board conducts continuous capacity building on financial reporting standards for constituency staff. 3, the board, in consultation with the Public Procurement Authority, should conduct continuous capacity building to all fund account managers on procurement laws and regulations within 3 months of the tabling of this report. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, allow me to mention that while examining these reports, the committee did not find anything adverse or alarming, and observations and recommendations of the committee show there is nothing to worry about in the implementation of CDF projects. I therefore sincerely congratulate the respective members of parliament in these constituencies for the good work they are doing in the constituencies, and thank the fund account managers, both current and former, for their cooperation when called upon to appear to give evidence to the committee on the audited accounts. I also wish to acknowledge the CEO of the board for the technical support they gave the committee during the examination and guidance provided to the constituencies on the policy matters, which have streamlined the reporting of the accounts of the constituencies. Honorable Speaker, I also take this opportunity to appreciate my fellow committee members for their commitment to the work before us and the sitting for long hours to examine the reports before the committee and come up with this report. I also wish to thank the office of the Speaker and the Clerk for the support given to the committee. May I also extend the committee appreciation to the Office of the Auditor General, the National Treasury, and Committee Secretariat for the good work they have put in facilitating committee and providing the technical support which enabled the committee to finalize the report. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move. Thank you.
Who is seconding the motion?
May I request the Honorable Muthoni Kiara to second.
Honorable Muthoni Kiara should have the mic to second.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to second the motion that this House adopts the second report of the Decentralized Funds Account Committee on its examination of the audited financial statement for the National Government Constituency Development Fund for the 5 constituencies in Vihiga County. Honorable Speaker, I do wish to appreciate that the National Government Constituency Development Fund is one of the funds that is felt on the ground, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the issues that are normally raised when we call or when we go for audit, Honorable Speaker, it's important to know that they cut across all the constituencies. And during the examination of these financial statements, Honorable Speaker, we do realize that in all the constituencies, the issues that we come across normally are the same. And Honorable Speaker, we have taken time more often than not to scrutinize all the reports that are brought by the fund account managers. But Honorable Speaker, the committee's general observation, as cited by the mover, therefore, is these constituencies in Vihiga, for instance, on the issue of unimplemented projects, the committee observed that there was delay in implementing massive delay in implementation of the projects, and the reason given is treasury, Honorable Speaker, because of delay in disbursement of the same projects, of the same monies. Honorable Speaker, the committee recommended that the National Treasury should ensure timely and adequate disbursement of funds to the National Government Constituency Development Fund Board for immediate release to the constituencies to avert these massive delays. Honorable Speaker, I also wish to reiterate that the committee's observation on poor coordination between the Office of the Auditor General and the fund account managers, particularly regarding the timely response to audit queries and the need for the National Government Constituency Development Board to inform the fund account managers across the county to respond to audited queries promptly. Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends, amongst others, that the National Government Constituency Development Board should ensure constituency committees employ qualified accountants for the constituency office. And Honorable Speaker, we also observed that these account fund managers, sometimes proper induction is not done because, Honorable Speaker, you find they don't know even what to bring during audit. And this makes the committee keeps calling them again and again. To repeat this, Honorable Speaker, we want to urge the National Government Constituency Fund Board to ensure that they do proper induction to all the fund managers to avert wastage of public resources, calling the committee and wastage of time for the committee members, because we normally sit long hours, Honorable Speaker, so that we can be able to come out with very credible report. Honorable Speaker, I wish to join my chairman in saying that in all the constituencies, money has been used prudently. And Honorable Speaker, it is important for all of us to ride the members of parliament because their work is oversight. And Honorable Speaker, it is important also to note that the only fund that we can properly account for and see in terms of development is the funds utilized and the funds that come from the national government constituency. So, Honorable Speaker, I'm saying this because the counties are also in place, but whenever we go, the buildings that we see, Honorable Speaker, we can see clearly they are National Government Constituency Development Fund projects that are being properly utilized, and some are in proper use, Honorable Speaker, except for the few issues that we have raised where there is massive delay in disbursement of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. And on that note, Honorable Speaker, as a committee, I wish to urge the MGCDF board, chaired by the honorable members in this house, so that they urge Treasury to release these funds well on time, so that we don't have massive delays of projects. Honorable Speaker, I wish to second this very important report and say NGCDF is the way to go. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, I now propose the question that this House adopts the report of the Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee on its consideration of the financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County for the financial years 2013-2014, 2014-2015, and 2015-2016, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 14th February 2024. The Honorable Dr. Wilberforce Oundo, MP for Funyula.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to commend the Committee of Decentralized Funds for the wonderful job they have been doing. And Honorable Speaker, allow me as well to sympathize with them. And I hope they listen so they can receive my sincere sympathy, because trying to audit books of account of 2014, 2015, and those kind of dates, Honorable Speaker, is a Herculean task, and they must have Solomonic wisdom to have unraveled this matter. Honorable Speaker, and it's also interesting and really commendable because naturally the standard practice that after 7 years accounting documents are destroyed or they are declared redundant. How they have managed to review the financial books of account for 2013, and indeed I must commend an architect can always redraw, even destroy the house, and the chair is an architect I know, and having been a PS, probably has learned the art of exorcising all the ghosts. Honorable Speaker, I must also admit that quite a number of fund managers who attended this meeting to discuss the audited accounts, quite many of them had not even joined the board when these funds were being expended. So indeed, they grappled in the dark, but it's good to see the caliber of what they are. They are able to adequately answer the records, answer all the questions based on the records available. Honorable Speaker, Article 95-96 bestows the National Assembly the mandate to oversight government funds. And indeed, this is what the Honours of Parliament do here in the National Assembly and also in mashinani in respect of the CDF funds. And I want to reiterate very clearly, for avoidance of doubts, that members of Parliament are not members of the CDFC committees at the constituency level. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, with the change in the law, even where members of Parliament by any accident used to sit in the Oversight Committee, that has long been reversed. So essentially, the CDF fund as it is a completely independent fund run by its own structures. The members of Parliament only oversight. Just like we can oversight any national government project, we can attend the launch of any national government project when they are being launched, be it by the minister, be it by the PS, be it even by the president, or whoever attends. So our attendance in such launches, such handover, is just part of our representation and of our oversight role. Honorable Speaker, when we seek to find out what has been done, we are simply oversighting. We are not involved directly in the management of the funds. When the reports are brought here, Honorable Speaker, we indeed also have just oversight, like everybody else can do anywhere. So I want the members of the press, the Republic, and everybody to desist at any time associating a member of Parliament with any misappropriation, any corruption, or unethical management of any funds at any given time. The AIE holder, as the chair has clearly explained, is the fund accounts manager. That's the AIE holder at the constituency level. At the board level, it's the CEO. So if there is any issue, indeed the people to answer those questions are the AIE holders who are the fund managers. But fund managers also work within the local context. So it's always important, the Office of the Auditor General and all those who are involved in any form of oversight or auditing must put in mind that this is a local environment, local circumstances. Honorable Speaker, when you go to the procurement processes, Honorable Speaker, you would go to some remote constituencies. You might not be able to get all the contractors who have got all the required documentation at any given time. You impose certain types of plant and machinery, you expect some kind of personnel, which will never be found. Indeed, Honorable Speaker, if we were to follow strictly the Public Procurement Asset Disposal Act, then most of the tenders for CDF job, the small ones, will be literally non-responsive, and they will therefore the funds not to be spent and be no value for money. That's why we always urge the auditors. Yes, this is what the law says, but the law is progressive. The law is not stuck at one point or another. Even when you look at the provisions about interpretation of the Constitution, they tell you this is a live document, must be interpreted as a living document, not as a dead horse which you flog and doesn't respond. So we want to urge there's not only this particular fund, there's some even funds like equalization fund that are taken to do work, execute work in very remote places. Let the Office of Auditor General be realistic, be reasonable, and be alive to the fact that there are local circumstances that dictate a different approach to a strictly procurement process that we could undertake here in Nairobi or elsewhere. The same way, Honorable Speaker, even if it comes to the building bylaws, there are adoptive building bylaws, and there are adoptive building bylaws depending on the local circumstances. Some of the building material that we wish to use in Nairobi cannot be applicable in some places because of the adverse environmental and weather conditions. So these are kind of debate that we need to put into place so that we should not just operate in a straitjacket as if we are robots, unable to think beyond a reasonable level. Honorable Speaker, since CDF came into this country, and I stand to be corrected, and even if we did an opinion poll, everybody will always, every Kenyan, wherever they are, they will always flag out a CDF as the most impactful devolved fund in this country. Honorable Speaker, go anywhere in this country. Honorable Speaker, I had the privilege on Friday to drive all the way from Suna West, all the way to Ndiwa, through Karachuonyo, all the way to Kisumu City. And everywhere you would see, the only thing you would see the signboard for CDF projects. CDF projects. Until at one time, as around Katito, I stopped and asked the locals, does it mean in this part of the world, which looks like the western part where I come from, there are no county governments, or the only county government could see were the barriers along the road to collect cess and illegal levies. They told us that county governments, we only see them hovering around in sirens and carrying special chairs to go with them, to sit with them in funerals. Once they are done, they carry those chairs, they go away, load in the pickup, go away, zoom to the next function. But the impact of county government funds, equitable funds, even their own source revenue, is nowhere to be seen. That's why I call upon Kenyans of goodwill, wherever you are, you must fight tooth and nail with your blood and water to make sure CDF is never touched at any given time. Because 99%, when your child has got no school fees, who comes to the rescue? Is the CDF bursary. Anytime when the wind blows off a roof to a classroom, where do you run the first point of call? You run to CDF to assist you. When you have even very mundane issues, you run to where do you, even when toilets, when public health officers come and condemn the toilet, where do you run to? You run to CDF. So it is incumbent upon all Kenyans wherever we are, that at every given time, we must always train our eyes to how the CDF money is used. It's not the MP's money, it is the people's money. So wherever you are, if you walk anywhere and you find anybody talking ill of CDF, even contemplating or imagining that they can abolish CDF, they are abolishing you completely and the entire lineage of your family. We wish that there could be a bit of collaboration between the CDF and the county government. We could have done much more than what we are doing. But Honorable Speaker, whatever too small administrative clerical mistakes they are, we urge the Kenyans, we urge the Auditor General to just treat them as they are. They are of no material impact. So therefore, and I want to ask the fund managers to consistently ensure that we comply with the law at any given time. So that at any given, the Speaker is still busy. So that at any given time, Honorable Speaker, we can get value for money. So Honorable Speaker, as we stand here today, we want to urge the National Board, the CDF Board, The financial year is coming to an end. We have so many CBC classrooms that are stuck. They are not moving because the disbursement has not come. We want them to hasten the disbursement of the funds so that we can put into rapid response measures to ensure these classrooms are completed so that our boys and girls do not have to sit outside as they run, as they do their things. Remember, Honorable Speaker, in 2020-26, the current GSS grade 8 after grade 9, they transit to secondary school. And the pathways will require massive investment in terms of art studio, performing studio, science laboratories, and the rest. We must start planning in advance to ensure that we are ready. The only responsive fund that can plan is the CDF. We want to urge all those who have got any infrastructure funds for schools or whichever, channel them through CDF. It will offer better services than giving to technocrats who do not understand the local circumstances. With those very many remarks,
just a minute, Honorable Oundo. What is out of order, the Honorable TJ Kajon?
How can it be out of yes, CG?
You know, Mr. Speaker, this good professor will never be out of order, but sometimes he forgets that he's speaking to the nation. Mr. Speaker, I didn't want to interrupt my friend, although I saw that he has fairly prosecuted this matter properly. But Mr. Speaker, looking at the House, I would have really wanted members from Vihiga to be here, because although we are speaking about the topic really is about the public expenses and how to audit them by the House, but these are being used by people from Vihiga, and my friend comes from Vihiga. No, he comes from Busia, but he is a neighbor to Vihiga. But how I wish that Vihiga people would be here to debate this more robustly, so that the people of Vihiga as a people can feel that their monies are utilized properly and are audited properly. And even the Auditor General, who is not in this House, you see, there should be annexures that people should understand that this is monies from national government, audited by an independent Auditor General within the law, and brought to this House, inspected by this House, and resolutions taken by this House to oversight those audit queries. So, Mr. Speaker, in that light, would I be in order that in the circumstances that we face, that this House is not quorated to discuss this matter exhaustively, and therefore the Speaker should ring the bell.
Do you have the numbers? Yeah, it is confirmed to me that we are operating below the requisite quorum. I order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes. Ring the bell.
Well, the House currently does not have the required quorum for the current business on the floor to continue. This is a matter that has been raised by the Honorable Member for Waraka, Honorable TJ Kajon, indicating to the Speaker, that is Honorable Peter Kaluma, who sits in the Speaker's panel, that the House does not have the required number of members to enable it to continue with the House business, and this is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 35,
which talks about the quorum during the proceedings of the House. Before we look at that particular standing order, business on the floor of the House, at the time the honorable member raised the lack of quorum issue was consideration of the motion by the chairperson, Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee. This motion is on the reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County. And the Honorable Chairperson required the House to adopt that report on its consideration of the financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County for the financial years that include 2013-2014, 2014-2015, and 2015 and 2016. These reports were laid, or rather this report was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 14th February, the year 2024, and members were giving their opinions on this particular motion, on this particular issue. Remember, it is an issue that touches on the monies from the national government and the expenditure therewith, and monies that concern constituencies within Vihiga County. But it was on that particular issue that the Honorable Member TJ Kajwang rose to alert the House that the business or the matter that is on the floor of the House concerns members mainly, or would be better if members mainly from that particular county were present in the House, that they will be able to debate exhaustively or extensively on the issues that are being raised on these reports for the financial years indicated, but the concerned members or the members who hail from that particular county and who may be able to participate deeply or add information with regards to these particular reports, their presence in the House is not there, and hence that necessitated this particular quorum bell. The Speaker indicated that the quorum bell be on for 10 minutes. This is pursuant to the House Standing Order number 35, which indicates that if at any time after the chair is taken, or when the House is in a committee or a member objects that there is not a quorum present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall count the members in the House or the committee, as the case may be. In this case, it is the House, and we have heard the Speaker indicating that the House is operating below the required number of members, and thereby necessitating that a particular quorum bell. So it will be on for 10 minutes. Part 2 of 35 indicates if on the count under paragraph 1 a quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall cause the division bell to be rung as on a division, and if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, which is currently what we are waiting for to see whether the House shall achieve that required number of members at the expiration of the 10 minutes or within the 10 minutes when the bell is on. Standing Order 35(2) Part A indicates that if the Speaker is in the chair, the Speaker shall adjourn the House until the next sitting without a question put. So that is a pursuant to the House Standing Order number 35. If we continue with that standing order, Part B indicates that if the House is in a committee, the chairperson shall leave the chair and report the fact to the Speaker, who shall adjourn the House until the next sitting. But in this case, it is the House and the Speaker will be able to give a way forward at the expiration of the 10 minutes. This is a quorum bill that is currently underway. It is a quorum bill during the proceeding of the House, which is pursuant to the House standing orders, and the business on the floor of the House before this particular quorum bill was with regards to the motion by the chairperson, Decentralized Funds Accounts Committee, a motion on the reports of the Auditor General on the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County, and the chairperson needed the House to adopt that report on its consideration of the financial statements for the National Government Constituencies Development Fund for 5 constituencies in Vihiga County. With regards to these financial years, the 2013-2014, 2014-2015, and 2015-2016, that was laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 14th February, the year 2024. So the quorum bill will be on, but a look at earlier on, the members concluded their debate on the National Disaster Risk Management Bill, a bill that is originating from the National Assembly, Bill number 24 of 2023. This is a bill by the leader of the majority party, a bill that its resumption during today's sitting, or this afternoon sitting, came after it was interrupted on Thursday, March 21st, the year 2024, in the afternoon sitting. This is a bill that seeks to provide a legal framework for the coordination of disaster risk management activities in both levels of government. Also establish the Intergovernmental Council on Disaster Risk Management and the National Disaster Risk Management Authority to ensure that there is coordination of disaster risk management issues at the national and county level. The National Disaster Risk Management Bill also seeks to establish county disaster risk management committees in each of the counties, as the role of disaster risk management is a shared function between the national and county governments under the 4th schedule to the Constitution. And the bill proposes to bring together the staff of the National Disaster Operations Center, the National Disaster Risk Management Unit, to undertake national disaster risk management. Just to remind you is that the House is currently awaiting to constitute the required number of members inside the chambers during the proceeding of House business. While the Speaker is addressing the House, let's listen in.
Order, honorable members. The time being 6:30 p.m., this House stands adjourned until Thursday, the 11th day of April, 2024, at 2:30 p.m.